Welcome to the April 25th, 2022 regular business board meeting of the Lower Merion Board of School Directors. The board believes it's in its best interest and the best interests of the students of the district to hear comments from district residents. An opportunity will be given for public comment in person and through the chat feature, which will be read by Ms. Brooks. This meeting is being video recorded with sound for public broadcast. All participants joining via Zoom will be muted upon entry. I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Mameen.
Thank you so much, President Klein, and good evening, everyone. The agenda is posted. However, I would like to detour respectfully, President Klein, fellow board members, because I would like to insert a presentation in my superintendent's report. A couple of weeks ago, we recognized publicly that our Denise LaPera received an award, the Gertrude E. Koff Award, from the Pennsylvania Association of Educational Office Professionals, PAEOP. And this evening, Denise is going to officially receive the award. And as you can see, she's surprised because we kept it secret. And I was sworn to secrecy. Presenting the award this evening is the award committee chair, Sherry Moyer, who's from the Middletown Area School District, and also the past president of PAEOP, Linnell Fitzmeyer, from Great Valley School District. So ladies, thank you for being here this evening. And let's proceed with the presentation. Congratulations, Denise.
Thank you. Good evening, Board of School Directors, administration, and community members of the Lower Merion School District. As your superintendent referenced, my name is Sherry Moyer. I serve as the chairman of this award, and I am pleased this evening to be joined by Linnell Fitzmeyer to present this award. Each year, PAEOP solicits nominations of outstanding educational office professionals from across the state to be bestowed with the Gertrude E. Koff Award of Recognition. The award received its name in 1995 to honor Gertrude Koff, a former PAEOP president. In February of 2020, our association received 6 nomination packets recognizing talented, dedicated, and hardworking educational office professionals supporting public education across the state of Pennsylvania. Every year, a team of administrators from across the state serve as our panel of judges. These judges serve in varying administrative job responsibilities within their own districts. This well-rounded group of judges uses a rubric of both personal qualities and job performance skills in evaluation of our winner. In 2020, one nominee clearly rose to the top. Some of the descriptors used in her nomination packet included professionalism, compassion, initiative, fidelity, ambassador, enthusiasm, positive influence, leadership, trustworthy, and sound judgment. I think that we can collectively agree that public education today has changed much over these last 2 years with COVID. The demands on leadership to navigate the ever-changing landscape require employees in key support roles to be of exemplary caliber. I have no doubt that our 2020 winner is one whom this district's leadership can count on for whatever task is put before her. On April 6th, our state association once again held its annual spring conference in a virtual format due to COVID-19. During the lunch break, our 2020 winner was recognized virtually for her outstanding achievement. In a normal year, the announcement of our winner is typically a very special evening. The winner's family and colleagues are invited to attend the evening's festivities, and right up until the announcement of the winner are kept hidden away as a further surprise. As we all know, COVID has required so many changes in the way which we have operated over these last 2 years. But as the chairperson and former recipient of this award, I could not allow our winner to not have her moment of recognition with her family and colleagues in attendance. So it is with our sincere good wishes and heartfelt congratulations, we recognize this evening Denise LaPera, Executive Assistant and Board Secretary of the Lower Merion School District, as our 2020 Gertrude E. Koff Award of Recognition recipient. Denise, I'd ask you to come forward at this time to accept this most deserved and long-awaited award and gift on behalf of our association and its membership.
Thank you. Put this down so I can give them the next one.
Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come this evening.
Thank you.
Also must recognize our three professionals who nominated Ms. LaPera. So come on forward, tell everyone who you are, and thank you, thank you, thank you. They're like, no, we're not coming near that microphone.
Say right there? Okay. I'm Rochelle Adam, and I work in the Student Services Special Ed Department.
And I'm Lynn Pringle, and I am Vic Orlando's Executive Assistant in the Business Office.
And I'm Latoya Baskerville-Uzel. I support Kimberly Frazier in the Student Services and Special Ed Department.
And the fine gentleman in the background, thank you so much, Jim LaPera, for sharing Denise with us.
You know you're all in trouble.
I told you. And we have a gift for you, Denise, coming from the administrators and cabinet. Thank you. Thanks for your service. Congratulations. Get my hugging because she's going to get.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Well, congratulations, Ms. LaPera. We're going to have a second slight change to our agenda this evening due to sort of student academic commitments. Many of you may not realize that May 6th is coming up quickly, and I believe the seniors are done with in-person classes by then. So there's a lot of work that happens in these last couple of weeks before the end of the seniors. So we wanted to let them have the opportunity to speak, do their student representative reports earlier in the agenda if they need to go off and study. So, Mr. Feldman?
Sure. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciated. So, looking back on Harridan's calendar, on Thursday, April 7th, Harridan Student Council hosted a pep rally in our gym for all the different spring sports teams. And this was a really significant pep rally as it was the first one that we've hosted in over 2 years, ever since the pandemic. The event brought all grades together to welcome all the sports teams. We then heard a few words from our great principal, Mr. Weinstein, who's here tonight. And then it featured a student-teacher basketball game. Luckily, the students came out victorious. And as a completely unbiased source, it was a huge success. And one that we hope will continue to increase Harridan's school spirit, which, as we know, has been somewhat lacking in the past. Also previously, HTC's Spring Musical and One Act. So ever since our last meeting, the Harridan Theater Company put on both their Spring Musical, which was Mamma Mia, and their Winter One Acts, which COVID forced to be pushed back from the winter. Both shows were great successes, and the audience seemed very happy to be live in person and getting to see all their friends and family. Harridan sports are definitely in full swing for the spring. The latest example of this being Harridan actually playing LM in both boys and girls lacrosse today, both of which I, along with many of my peers, attended. The boys' game ended in a double overtime win with one of the players scoring a sudden death goal for the win. The girls' game, they gave a great effort storming back, coming up just short, but really we're all winners. So the next big event coming up, certainly for seniors, is the senior prom, which will be happening this Saturday, April 30th at Reading Terminal Market. The excitement has definitely been steadily rising, and I'm sure has not yet reached its apex. I'm sure it will continue, but everyone is really excited about that. And the biggest thing, at least on upperclassmen's mind, as was mentioned, are exams which are coming up. So AP exams will be starting Monday of next week, and IB exams will actually be starting Thursday of this week. Luckily for me, I will be one of those seniors taking the IB exam on Thursday, so that's great. But overall, it's just a very nice marker for the end of the year, especially for seniors, as after next week, we'll be leaving school to work on senior projects. So it's a nice signal for the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Feldman. Ms. Wu?
Good evening, everyone. I'll start off with student council related business. Last week, Lower Merion Student Council presented Lower Merion's third lip dub. You can find the video on Student Council's YouTube or Instagram. The video was about 5 minutes and it showcased 1,600 students and about 150 faculty and staff. This lip dub video is dedicated towards Mr. Hughes, and the donation link for the Sean A. Hughes Children's Trust is linked in the YouTube video. Along with our lip dub, elections for next year's Lower Merion Student Council Cabinet are also beginning soon, which is highly anticipated. Other clubs such as DECA, TSA, and Science Olympiad have also been greatly active. DECA had a conference over the weekend, and TSA attended their state's conference this weekend. Overall, TSA had 5 first placements and 31 overall event placements. This weekend, the Science Olympiad team will be attending their state conference. In the beginning of the month, the Computer Science Club hosted Code LM, a computer science competition with 10 different schools across the area, and they competed in coding events. Just to switch it up, LM Players is also presenting their musical Godspell this weekend. Overflow tickets are available at www.lmplayers.com. And as for the seniors, just like Harriton, they're beginning their senior projects in 2 weeks, and many are excited for prom as well. In general, students are anticipating their AP tests. Most of my classes are reviewing course material, and so that will be prepared for a test in 2 weeks. And of course, our student body is super excited to welcome our new principal, Mr. Johnson, for the next school year. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wu. I just wanted to reiterate, I highly recommend everyone go see the lip dub that the LM Student Council did. It's really terrific. So thank you for that. Thank you both for giving up some of your study time to be here with us tonight. We look forward to seeing you next month when you're well rested doing your senior projects.
As they run out.
Yes. And I'm going to pass it back to Dr. Mameen, who has several presentations for this evening.
Thank you so much, President Klein. Also, this evening, before we move into our presentations, as mentioned by Ms. Wu, we do have our recommended candidate for principal of Lower Merion High School in the audience with us this evening. We are extremely excited about Mike Johnson taking the reins at Lower Merion High School. I must say that it was an intense interview process, which included students, staff, community members, and administrators. And Mr. Johnson came out as the top candidate, and it's so exciting to have you here and being, filling some huge shoes over in Lower Merion High School. And I believe from what Emmy said, and what's indicative of who's in the audience this evening supporting your recommendation. Administrators from Harriton, where Mike Johnson is currently the assistant principal, representatives from Lower Merion High School, and of course the administration and the board. We support you wholeheartedly, and this is a premature welcome into the position, but we're so glad you're here. We're so glad you're here, and we're excited about the infinite possibilities that you'll have as principal, leading just wonderful children and staff members, families, and being a pillar in the community as the Lower Merion High School principal. So Mike Johnson. Also, President Klein, I have one more announcement. Also in the audience this evening, as you know, we were searching for a Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and we found a candidate. And that candidate is Shawana James Coles, who's in the audience this evening with her husband, Bernardo. We are so excited for Shawana to come on board, who's coming to us from Centennial School District in Bucks County, where she's currently the DEI director there in Centennial School District. What has been phenomenal about this, again, another aggressive interview process where a team of community members, parents, administrators, board members sat at a committee and they interviewed our candidates. And we went through an aggressive couple of rounds of interviews with candidates, and I will say that Mrs. Coles is the one candidate that came out unanimously through the committee's very tough committee process. We're very excited because of the possibilities that she brings and the expertise that she brings to be able to move some of our DEI initiatives forward, as we've been hearing very clearly from the community in regards to metrics, in regards to student voice, in regards to creating systems of communication from externally to internally within the district, from the students, meaning Student Equity Task Force, staff equity task forces, and also community equity task forces to be able to help us advance this work. So we're so excited. We're so excited to have you here, Shawana, and collectively, both of you. This is just, again, it's wonderful. This is like the premonition of how we hire here in the Lower Merion School District. We hire high quality experts in their areas. So I am so excited that both of you are coming on board in your official capacities, and pending board approval, that is, in your official capacity. So again, unofficially, welcome. All right, President Klein, we are now back on the agenda. We are in the superintendent presentations portion of the agenda. We'll begin with the full day kindergarten update. I will communicate as Dr. McGloin and Dr. Gaudioso make their way to the podium. This is an update which is not simply in response to our groups of constituents that came out last week at our board meeting, whereas I communicated that these are plans that we had in the works to refresh and re-energize our positionality in regards to full day, oh, this is beautiful, in regards to full day kindergarten. To give a little history before we go into the presentation, full day kindergarten was embarked upon back in 2013, and then there was some energy around full day kindergarten in 2016. What I stated last week publicly, we are seriously looking at full day kindergarten, and we will commence or begin a process in the school year of 22-23, which we'll go over in the presentation this evening, to talk about some of the things that will be in the makeup of creating full day kindergarten classes. My portion of the presentation, just to reiterate what I was speaking with the group last evening, is about the competing interest, and I wanted to make sure that I said it publicly. We're looking at full day kindergarten as the goal, but then being very transparent The other competing interests we have are the lights on Arnold Field, which moves into healthy start times, Black Rock Middle School's field sites, and also pending budget litigation that you'll hear about in this evening's budget presentation. All of these things are factors. They're not barriers, but they're factors when playing into full-day kindergarten. Wanted to make sure that we are very transparent and overt about that. However, the goal is clear. We will begin to look at this very seriously in the 22-23 school year. And within the slideshow this evening, you're going to hear a lot about the inception of K+. We're going to talk a little bit around, of course, the research that coincides with full-day kindergarten, the advantages, and also looking at what are the things that help us to bring full-day kindergarten across the finish line. One of the things that I really enjoy about when I reviewed this presentation and worked with the cabinet level team around these areas is that when you look at Arnold Field lights and healthy start times and Black Rock Middle School field sites and pending budget litigation, these are things that have so many other factors that play into them. Along with our competing interests, the one that's clear with full-day kindergarten, it entails curriculum, scheduling, busing, and things of that nature that we have more control over. It has a cost, which creates an opportunity to plan. But this one, with full-day kindergarten, this is something that can become a reality. So tonight is the beginning of that discussion, whereas we're not going to look from 2013 and say we tried it in 2013 and nothing happened, or 2016 there was some energy behind it and we didn't have a facility. We have a great opportunity, and we are seriously looking at this to be able to present to the school board later next school year, perhaps leading to a recommendation considering all of the competing factors and looking at our finances. So with that said, Dr. Gaudioso.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm the Director of Elementary Education. Happy to be here tonight. We're going to just give a little bit of background on kindergarten as it exists in the district so far. We have in our regular education, full-day kindergarten opportunities, we have had a long history of an early intervention support layer that is full-day kindergarten, and that is called our extended day kindergarten. And this began in the 2013-14 school year with an intentional design to support small groups of students in each school who had significant literacy needs. It typically ran from February to June. In 2019, we started offering it earlier and to extend the instruction. So that's one layer of our program that has existed for a while. In 2021-22 school year, this year, we began another layer with the targeted full-day program at 3 of our schools, Belmont Hills, Penn Wynne, and Penn Valley. And this was designed for a small group of kindergarten students, again, 8 to 12 students in each school, who would benefit from additional academic and social emotional support as determined by screenings that suggested needs for additional support to succeed at high levels in kindergarten. And we named this program K+. It followed the regular core curriculum. So instead of where extended day kindergarten was an extension, students stayed for an additional half day, this program students had a homeroom and they had a redesign of the day so that students still participated in our full core curriculum for kindergarten, but we built on extensions that were targeted on certain intervention areas. One of the features that we were really committed to was also making room, space in the day for play-based learning so that students had those social learning opportunities and also those opportunities for targeted design and targeted or learning targets attached to play experiences. So the intention of this K+ kindergarten program was a support layer to help us identify and close any achievement and opportunity gaps on entry to school. And this selection of the 3 schools, Belmont Hills, Penn Valley, and Penn Wynne, was made because during a achievement study, looking at our demographics, one of the things that we noticed when we analyzed the data was that these three schools had our highest populations of our historically underperforming subgroups. So the intersection of groups in these schools was the greatest. So the identification of those three schools as the site was intended to advance our district equity goals. And those equity goals really became the context for our decision anchored in our equity policy. So the context, as we looked at the demographics, our African American Black subgroup had the largest gap on our metrics. We also had some gap with our Hispanic students. Our economically disadvantaged subgroup also had a large achievement gap. Over 50% of our African American Black subgroup qualified as economically disadvantaged, so we had some intersection. However, by graduation, our student college attendance is almost on par with peers for our African American Black subgroup, or students. So this guiding principle, this equity statement, allowed us to ask the question, are there needs that some have beyond what we're providing for everyone, and that allow us to really meet students and provide what they need and really ensure that we're being individualized in our planning and our thinking and our supports for students. So this commitment was grounded in the district equity statement. Just to give you a little glimpse, this is some of the learning spaces you can see here, a little more anchored in play-based learning. We have some research-based programs we were infusing into the program as supplements to our core. And we also have, really rich engagement and engaging activities. Our teachers are really looking with the idea of we're getting these students ready for first grade with a really strong foundation. And here couple pictures of K+ in action. You can see a lot of the play-centered learning and some big smiles there. And this is something where students have the opportunity to really enact what they're learning and to experience some real-world problem-solving and experiences that really engage them and make their learning feel meaningful. And lots of smiles. We've had mid-year benchmarks, and we have some screening tools, so we'll be looking forward to analyzing that data at the end of the year. But anecdotally, teachers are very excited about the growth that they're seeing. And when I've gone over, sitting next to little ones, I'm seeing them use their decoding strategies, as they're doing their kid writing. So it's really been exciting to be a part of. So that gives you just a little history of some of the work that we've done to put full-day kindergarten in place. This was a team that had to work and design and identify criteria for eligibility and envision curriculum programming. Both of the existing programs are targeted to meet certain needs. So I highlight that because when we're talking about full-day kindergarten, there are other elements involved beyond just targeted interventions. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. McGloy.
Some of these faces are absolutely adorable. Dr. Gaudioso and I were looking at them on Friday, like, we have to put that one in, it's so great. We have to put that one in, it's so great, because the pictures were just wonderful. So we're really excited about the fact that we put in a program this year that was a targeted full-day K program. We do know that we need to set our sights on even more and really start to talk about putting in a full-day kindergarten program for all of our students in the district. To do that, there's going to be some investigations that need to happen. And this isn't an all-inclusive list right here, but we know for sure that we're going to need to look at our enrollment and staffing analysis. And I'm going to go into this a little bit more in depth in just a minute. We're also going to talk about a facilities analysis. And then also the curriculum build, because as Dr. Gaudioso said, we have a targeted program that is really for our students that need an additional layer of support. And so we're not necessarily talking about that when we talk about a full-day kindergarten program for all. So that curricular build is going to look different. And we'll have to think about kindergarten screeners, our unified arts classes in addition to it, the curriculum that goes along with that, and resources and materials. But I'll go into each of those in just a second. So the first thing that we really started to at least consider and talk about is enrollment and staffing analysis. And if you recall, and the reason that we really went into the idea that we had to build another building in the district was because there's issues with enrollment growth that we were seeing firsthand and that also were projected. And so based on that, the district decided to build a new middle school to alleviate overcrowding in the district. We have a new enrollment study that we just talked about that actually actually reflects a little decrease in what was projected from before. That could possibly be due to COVID. We don't know for sure. We're going to need a couple more years to really figure out if that's going to be true or not. And then, so we really have to look at that and let that bear itself out. In addition to that, when we think about a full-day kindergarten program, we really do need to forecast what our kindergarten enrollment is going to look like, because we have a significant increase between kindergarten and first grade in the school district. A lot of parents decide to put their children in a full-day program outside of the district. So we have to think about how many students are we really talking about from a kindergarten perspective. So to do that, we would enlist the assistance of a demographer, and then we'd also want to survey our current preschool parents to see what their intentions would be. Second thing that we really need to think about is investigating our facilities. Currently, there are 29 classrooms in fifth grade, right? So we have 29 classrooms that should be open potentially in the next school year. An estimate that we might need would be about 21 kindergarten classrooms, but they don't exactly compare equally. So you could think, all right, well, we have 29 going out. We have 21 that we potentially need. We have enough room. That's not necessarily the case, because you have to think of school by school. And we already had some space concerns, as everybody knows. So some of those classrooms are already spoken for because of that. In addition to that, the modular classrooms at Marion and Penn Wynn are being removed. And so those classes need to now come into the buildings. And so that space will be taken by those as well. So what that leads us to say is we need much more investigation next year, once the school's open, to see what classroom spaces we really have open when the school's open. In addition to that, which isn't up here, but we really need to talk about and consider the cost of converting classroom spaces into kindergarten classes. For instance, do we have bathrooms in those rooms? Are they accessible for little students? What does the furniture look like? Because our kindergarten furniture looks different than all the other furniture in the district. So, that's just more investigation that we have to do in the area of facilities. Curricular investigation is another area that we definitely need to spend time on. We have to really think about rearticulation of our programming. Next year, we'll be piloting phonics and adopting a phonics program through our ESSER grant, if you remember me talking about that. Those numbers are based on our current kindergarten enrollment, so we'll have to add additional costs to it, but we really are beginning the process of looking at our phonics programming in K-1-2. We also really do want to evaluate the first and second year of our K+ program. We're not through our first year yet, as you had heard Dr. Gaudioso say, so it's really hard to give hard data on anything because we're not through a full year of it, although we're feeling very successful where we stand right now. We'll need to develop full-day curriculum across all subject areas, and that includes our special areas. Currently, our kindergarten students that are half-day receive PE and they receive library, and so we don't have all of our specials during that time because of the amount of time that we have students. So that's an expansion truly of our programming. And we know that if we're expanding this program, we know that we're going to also have to think about student services programs, supports, and staff, because that will be something to consider as well. So a proposed timeline, and this is just our initial thoughts on what we would really like to accomplish going into next school year. In the beginning of the year in September, we'll look to establish a committee to research the possibilities. The committee will be comprised of staff, administrators, teachers, parents on that committee, and so it'll be a committee that really is all-inclusive. In October, we'll start to work with the demographer and start to talk about how we're going to survey those preschool parents. What will that look like? How do we get the surveys out? How does it exactly, the structure of it work? By December, we'll want to have an estimate of the budget of how many staff we'll actually need, what kind of resources we think we might need. We're looking at that as a December time because Mr. Orlando will definitely need that as he's going into the budgetary process. By January, we want to start to visit some full-day kindergarten programs that could give us models of what we might want to actually put in place if it's a realistic item. And then we're thinking that in February, we'll look at our facilities to see what we need for the full-day program. By March, we'd like to update the school board on our progress and give you up-to-date notes on where we think we could head with full-day kindergarten. So that's a proposed timeline. Obviously, some of that could shift. There's no doubt about it, but that's what in our minds where we think we're going to head going into the next school year. So it's a beginning process, clearly. We've been trying to be as thoughtful as we can about the things that we have to look at and consider as we look at our journey towards a full-day kindergarten in the school district. But I think we're starting out at least. So questions at this point in time?
Ms. Garrison?
Yes, I was curious, what phonics program are we currently using?
Why am I forgetting the name of it? We're using, Journeys. I'm sorry, Journeys.
Journeys, okay.
Yep.
Are we considering using Wilson?
Yes, Foundations.
Okay.
Yep.
I do have a couple other questions. I want to know what percentage of the population is African American
In the district?
in the district, or at least at the kindergarten level?
So you're asking me a question off the top of my head. I feel like it's 9% or
Okay.
around 9%.
Around
but
9%?
Don't quote me on that. I will get you the definite number, but I feel like we're about 8 or 9% African.
Okay, so, because I was curious, in one of the slides, it said another group that was also, another subgroup, like, what's the demographics of that subgroup, and what percentage of they are kindergartners?
So I don't know what other was, but it could be mixed race. A lot of times that might be it. That's about 9% in the district too, if I'm remembering off the top of my head. Our
Okay.
largest percentage is Asian of our subgroups, other than white. White is obviously
Right.
our number one, and then Asian is next. And then Hispanic is actually higher than one might think it is as well. So I feel like, I don't know what other was, and if I go back, I might be able to look, but it could be mixed race, which would be about 8%
Okay.
as well.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Kalish? We'll do public comment after the presentations.
Thank you. I very much appreciate this, as anyone who has had the pleasure of coming to any of these meetings since I've been on the board knows that I'm the person that's forever asking the question about full-day kindergarten. So the fact that we're having this presentation and having this discussion, I've kind of been a little teary about the whole thing. I'm just it feels like a really momentous, important thing that we're even making progress to, and that just has me quelling a little bit. So, I have a couple of sort of smaller questions. Just when we mentioned moving the modulars, it listed Marion and Penwyn, but I believe we're also losing the modulars at BC and Kinwood, right, as well?
We absolutely are.
Okay.
I only mentioned the modulars at the elementary school because they have to go back into the school, and so that was why I targeted that, but we absolutely are also losing them at the middle level as well.
Oh, yeah, I get confused because the field is the shared space between, so I didn't know
It's not
which
Kinwood,
one
yeah.
belonged.
Yeah, they belong to Ballot Kinwood, not
Right.
Kinwood.
Okay, and so I thought I heard this, but I wasn't sure if you just said it quickly. Are you implying, not implying, but is there a possibility that we would need modulars to extend the kindergarten program to full day?
I don't know the answer to that, so
Okay.
I don't want to speculate.
Yeah, no, I
I'd
just
rather wait
wasn't
until
sure
we
if
get
I
into
had
next
missed.
school year and see where we land with our students and where the classroom spaces exist, or if we could reconfigure to get more classroom spaces. So I'd rather wait until we open up next year and get a better handle on it.
Okay, so my last question is the big whammy, because we have our schedule laid out and we're looking at our timeline. And I know the question that everybody's thinking is, so when is it actually a possibility that we could have our kids in this program? Is fall 2024 like pie in the sky, is that possible? Or, I mean, I don't want to hold you to anything, but that's sort of,
Fall 2024?
yeah.
I don't think that's pie in the sky, maybe. Yeah, in my head I was counting.
No, because I know that 2023 probably is pie in the sky. I mean, this is my absolute desperate hope, but I will be honest that I am trying to be really realistic about all the challenges that the district is facing in enacting this, and as much as I'd like it tomorrow, I'm trying to be balanced between desperate hope and reasonable.
This fall is out. There's no way by September that we could make this
Right, of
happen.
course.
I can tell you that for certainty. I think it's going to be dependent on the budget and the impact on the budget and staffing impacts. And so there's a couple different pieces to it, and facilities as well. So we have to make sure we have the space. We need to understand the impact of staffing on the budget. Mr. Orlando is going to have to tell us if it's a doable thing or it's not a doable thing. And so that would be what I would say. However, I think, Dr. Mumina, I don't want to misspeak for you, so I'm going to let
I
you
was
take over.
only asking because if we see that we're going to get here from the committee back in March again, then we're looking at April to maybe July to spin up a full-day kindergarten program, and I wasn't sure if that was going to be a long enough term. That's where my question came from.
And just for clarification purposes, the next year, as we look through this timeline, we will be looking at the staffing and budgetary purposes and starting to have those conversations with Mr. Orlando to see how this fits, whether it's an initiative that we can fund through our general fund, or is this an initiative that perhaps we'll have options laid out by March? Is this an option that perhaps will have to go, will be a part of the budget presentation, which may have to go to the community? But those are things that this is so premature at this point. That's why this year is important to study this. What we wanted to show this evening is that from last week's conversation and dialogue, especially with the community, that this isn't something that we're just saying, yeah, we'll try to do full-day kindergarten sometime in the future. This gives us a definitive timeline to work within to be able to start coming to the board with recommendations instead of we may can do this, we may cannot, and having some factual information in regards to our spaces, more so the facility, making sure that we can house kindergarten students in these classrooms, and being able to give a big picture. What I gathered last week was a sense of, yes, this is an important initiative. It has been an important initiative, but we haven't heard anything about it. Where's the plan to actually look at this deeply to be able to get to a place where we are comfortable as an administration of providing a recommendation for the school board? So it's going to be an intense year of going through these areas on the timeline.
I mean, and I very much appreciate that. And frankly, I appreciate the change in posture that the administration is really I understand that nobody's making any promises and that this is a really big lift, but this is the first time since I've been in this role that I've really felt support from the community and the administration on this really important issue, and I really appreciate all the effort and careful thought and planning that's going towards hopefully making this a reality as soon as we possibly can.
Ms. Schaffmeister? Yep.
I'm interested on the transportation side, if in the future we see some kind of a report on how that's going to affect, because we have all those small buses for transporting the kindergartners during the midday exchange, and they're not going to be needed as much, and I wondered if that's how much of that is going to affect our fleet, and whether we have room on the current large buses when we're going to be doubling the number of kindergarten students riding the bus to and from. So that would be I'm sure we can't do that into the fall with Black Rock in the mix, but I'd be interested to see how that's going to affect our fleet of buses.
Right, and that is something that we will need to investigate. I think it'll be important for us to really try to get a gauge of how many students are going to be in the kindergarten. Even though we know it's still going to be an estimate, it'll be helpful for us to know that, so then we can start to talk about what transportation impacts might be as well.
Ms. Garrison?
I would be interested in knowing, I know as an estimate, what the budget, what would be required, how much money, an estimate of what we think that might look like, and how might it impact taxpayers who don't have children in the district.
Yep. Yeah, and so December is where we're targeting to be able to at least have that information from a budget perspective. Yep.
I have a couple of quick follow-up questions. Could you speak a little bit to the pilot program that's in 3 elementary schools and the decision to have that pilot in those 3 schools?
So I can go back. So when we decided on the 3 schools that we targeted for the kindergarten enrollment, it was really taking a look at where we saw our largest gaps and where we saw the the mix of them together. And so that was why we targeted those 3 schools specifically, because we did look at our subgroup populations and we said, okay, where is our largest group of students? And then there were the 3 schools that we targeted because of that. And so you see it on here, that was really the context for our decision. It was looking at our subgroups.
Great, thank you. And just to clarify that when you talk about unified arts, that's sort of what parents think of as specials?
Yes.
Like those are sort
They
of,
are, yes.
those are the same, okay.
Yep, they are our specials.
And then my last question was around facilities, and can you talk a little bit more about the difference between a, say, 5th grade classroom, although I'm not envisioning that the kindergartners would go into the 5th grade, right? Like there would be a reconfiguration or moving around of, you know, what was traditionally the 1st grade wing or whatever. But can you talk a little bit about how they're different, and then also sort of what the process would need to be to make those changes?
A lot of times, typically, you'll see a bathroom in our younger grades, so especially in kindergarten, because if you think about a kindergarten student and a classroom, trying to walk them all down to the bathroom, and you'd have to stand there while one goes in the bathroom, and then the next one goes in the bathroom, and it takes time. I've seen it happen. I mean, it's not that it can't. It's just, it's a huge factor. And so a lot of times you'll see a bathroom in there. You may see things lower than you would see in a 5th grade classroom. Think of the size of kids. And so when we have classroom spaces, we really do think about the size of students that are in those classrooms as well. So you may see things that are lower. You might see a sink in the room so that they could wash their hands or clean up. So that's something you might see in those rooms as well. And I said furniture. Furniture definitely looks very different for a kindergarten classroom than it does for a 5th grade classroom. Size-wise, shape-wise, what they're doing in those pieces of furniture really does make a difference as well. So we have to look at the rooms and see what's in them, and then talk about, do we have to retrofit things? So we would want to try to have a bathroom if we could in the rooms. We would want to make sure, if not, we need to make sure there's a sink in the room, right? Because you'd want to have the ability for our students to at least be able to do something like that, wash their hands in the classroom. So that's what we would look at. You're probably right. We might not put a 5th grade classroom, well, first kindergarten where a 5th grade classroom was, but it's possible. I mean, honestly, I've done that when I was an elementary principal. I can't say that I haven't, but it had what I needed in that classroom on top of it. So we'll have to look at the spaces and see what works.
Right, especially since our schools are so different from one another.
Yeah.
Like if you look at a Penn Valley versus a Marion, just in terms of age and layout, like they're quite different.
Yeah, they are all different. So we'll have to go into each one of the buildings and really take a look at them individually. I'm sure Mr. Lill will be very helpful on that. As he's chomping, you can add in there, go ahead.
If I could add, you also have to look outside the building, playground equipment. Kindergarten students who are half-day really don't have a true recess. You add in that full-day component, you're going to have play space and kindergarten equipment, which is obviously different than the type of equipment you use for a 4th or 5th grader. So all of those things really have to be factored in so that you have the entire program accommodated and properly housed.
Right, and we'd want larger spaces so we could put in like play areas, which we want for students. So, you know, a larger classroom space. So there's a couple different factors. It's like, you know, Dr. Mamine had said, they're not barriers, they're just things we have to think about and be aware of and work through to make sure we're successful.
Right, I appreciate that it's not, they're not presented as barriers, they're presented as, let's make sure that we're thinking this through clearly and thoroughly so that, you know, 2 or 3 years down the line, we were like, oh, well, we should have done that. Like, so I appreciate that, trying to be thorough. Ms. Schaffmeister, did you? Yep.
2 questions. One is related to what Lucy was asking about with the configuration of the classroom. Now, so many of the classrooms are kindergarten classes are built right next to the playgrounds that are just outside because they have their own separate. Are we going to be able to maintain that, or are we going to be, or is that not even?
That's something that we're going to have to look at and investigate. I don't have a definitive answer for you. We definitely have to look at our space in general at all the buildings and see what is going to work best for the students. It really is about what works for the students and what's going to be best for them. So we'll have to look at the spaces and then make the decisions, but I don't have a definite answer for you today.
Okay, thanks. And the other one just goes to our current full-day program, and you talk about our economically disadvantaged subgroup. Do we know, like, do we have any stats on, like, what's the makeup of that group, and
We have stats from a race perspective, what the makeup of the group is. We have stats that could tell us what percentage of those students are ELL students. So we do have those statistics for sure. And when you look at how they intersect, the intersectionality of multiple layers of those achievement gaps, that's really where you want to target. And so that was what we were thinking about. So they're the type of statistics that we do have. I have a whole chart I could send you. I was thinking that it was, that I'll send to the board. It was last year's, but at least we have that we can send to you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Great, so we're going to move on, Dr. Mamine, to our second presentation.
Thank you, President Klein.
You can do them if you want me to. It would be easier for you, but if you want me to, I will.
Okay.
Okay. You could hear me saying that. I was like right in the microphone. I'm sorry.
Thank you. You know, when I look at this Dell computer, I'm more Apple. Well, President Klein and fellow board members, this evening we have our budget, our proposed final budget presentation. I will be presenting along with Mr. Vic Orlando as we delve into some of the intricate details around the numbers. Great. This is simply, this slide here, we all know as stakeholders in the Lower Merion School District, our schools are safe, supportive, and inclusive. And just for public consumption and to be able to put this on record, it's valuable for me to state these statements that are mentioned, and I'll state them verbatim. Students of our district welcomes students of all races, ethnicities, and nationalities, students with diverse abilities, students who are LGBTQ+, students of all family structures, students who are English language learners, students of all religions, students from all socioeconomic backgrounds, and students of all body types. When it comes to children, we are here for you. Our strategic plan and pathways. This strategic plan and pathways, of course, is highly publicized on our website. But again, just focusing in on the 5 areas that we focus all of our work around. It's around redefining success, transformative curriculum, a commitment to professional learning, student-driven schools, and a spirit of community. The rest of the chart speaks to how we do the work. And again, as you'll hear in subsequent presentations, we're going to delve into the metrics deeper as we move into our next school years. This infographic just gives a visual interpretation of the budget process and some of the nuance that goes into it. First, in September, we examined the PA issues, Pennsylvania issues the index and the budget timeline. October and November, this is when the department heads begin to budget their work. When we're moving forward into December, the business office and the cabinet, we begin to review, the cabinet level administrators, we begin to review budget requests and how we're projecting the budget to be in light of what the budget parameters will be for this school year. January, the primary budget, we seek a resolution not to exceed the index, which is a very important area of our school-based budgeting, our district-based budgeting. May, March, and April, that's what we're indulging in now, or engaging in now, the proposed budget, proposed final budget. And meanwhile, while we're doing these things, we have several committee presentations that happen in various settings that speak to how we bring this full budget together. As we move into May, we'll have public inspection and a notice to adopt the final budget. And then in June, per the PA timeline, budget timeline, we will seek an adopted final budget. the budget calendar for 2022 to 2023, March 23rd, we had the Finance Committee meeting with the operations presentation, and there were comments and questions around, how does this fit into the big picture, the big picture meaning the full final budget. April 20th, the Finance Committee meeting with Student Services presentation happened. This evening, we're here for a proposed final budget approval. Now, as I talked about in the actual roadmap, where in the roadmap, we're talking about public inspection and notice to adopt a final budget. I'm going to flip back to the next slide. This is where we have our Finance Committee meeting for staffing and information systems presentations, and also the curriculum presentation that happens in the Finance Committee meeting. So what you're seeing this evening is not finalized, as we still are taking input, and we're still looking at adjusting the numbers to get them exact to that June finish line. May 24th, there's the public inspection deadline of the proposed final budget. May 29th, public notice of intent and deadline to adopt the 22-23 budget. And again, June 13th, the final budget approval and adoption. Some important highlights. This is very important that the district did not file a preliminary budget with the state this year, which means that the resolution adopted certifying the millage rate will not exceed the 3.4% index. A preliminary budget is associated with the request to apply for exceptions, which is not part of this year's financial plan. Our use of our fund balance to balance the budget will remain at zero in the 22-23 budget. We continue to have challenges due to the number of factors contributing to growing expenses, and we'll continue to plan both for near and long-term goals. And we'll delve into this a little deeper. What's new? Of course, we have Black Rock Middle School. Very exciting. It's opening in the fall. The expanding of our technical high school course offerings, where, as you've heard in previous curriculum presentations, where this creates more inclusion of students to be able to get into the technical high school in earlier years to seek certifications. Additional social and emotional wellness services, additional academic support, and again, the reimagining of K-4 and the 5 to 8 experience, which we've had several presentations this year. Our curriculum areas of focus: transformative curriculum, student-driven schools, and redefining success. Again, aligned with our strategic pathways. And as we talked about with the full-day kindergarten work that's ahead of us, we like to be very overt and transparent about some of the factors that impact our budgeting here. New staff. We are a service-driven school system. So yes, we have expenses in regards to personnel, which dominates the budget. Our building operating expenses, and also extracurricular activities. More factors impacting the budget: our MTSS, multi-tier systems of support, equity and access, again, the K-8 reimagination development, cultural proficiency, effective instructional technology and integration, and assessment of literacy and data analysis. I like what was said in regards to the last presentation. When we say factors impacting the budget, these are not barriers. This is an opportunity for us as the administration, as we bring budgets before you, that we have done our due diligence with looking at every single area of our school system. Increased student needs and supports. As we know, it's no secret with our students who are dealing within this pandemic, staff who are dealing with the pandemic, post-COVID, during COVID. We have a very focused approach on social and emotional wellness, student services, and again, expanding the technical high school offerings, because things have changed over the past 2 years. From our presentation from Student Services, this was a slide that was used in regards to our emerging population of special education services. And the reason why it's in this presentation, because it does have a budgetary impact as we're trending towards $50 million in special education students' costs. We have been speaking a lot in regards to the enrollment projections, and we had a demographer come in to give us an update in a previous meeting in looking at these trends, especially as we looked at these trends in the data to build Black Rock Middle School. So this is just a recap of some of this data, historic, projected, and expanded. As you can see, in the year 2013, we were around 7,800 students, 7,859 students, and we began to trend upward up to 8,626 students. Now, how does that historic data coincide with the projected data? Our projected data was closely matched, with 8,600 students in 2020 to 2021, looking at 9,100 students, 9,200 students, 9,300 students, up to 9,400 students in 2025-26. We took an extended look, and the reason why we have the extended data here, as the demographer spoke of, he said it's very hard to capture absolute numbers because of the ebbs and flows of the pandemic. So this is a projection just to keep us aligned to where we are and where we're headed. Post-COVID, our enrollment projections. Again, slightly off from the previous slide. When I go back to 2021, 2022 at 9,100 students, 9,152 students to be exact. Shifting here, looking at our post-COVID data, you see the numbers are a little off. From the demographer's perspective, said we will not really see the true projections of our student demographics until we are post-COVID. We use this term, and it's being used, being thrown around in regards to post-COVID, but we are still in the midst of a pandemic. As we're moving to projected personnel needs, what's important about this slide is that, as you can see, when we look at full-time equivalent or FTEs, you'll see numbers like 5 and 4, whole numbers. That makes sense. But then when we look at, for example, in Welsh Valley Middle School, there's a projected FTE of 1.24. So how do you get 1.24 staff members? I use this example because when we're looking at staffing and our projected personnel needs, with the onboarding of Black Rock Middle School, this isn't a building that was that's being constructed where we're putting all brand new staff into that building. We are looking at, we took a look at how to expand the usage of our staff members, our current staff members, to be able to move into many of the slots in Black Rock Middle School. So, for example, when we're looking at that 1.24, this is professional staff to support the realignment and reimagination of the middle level student experience. So 1.0, full-time equivalent, that's an art teacher, and 0.24 is one of our health and PE teachers. So that's used in other areas of PE throughout the district. Moving down this projected personnel needs, for budgetary explanation, it puts us at 44.64 total FTEs. The budget highlights current and future tax revenues, state and federal funding. Mr. Orlando will take a deeper dive into the actual numbers around these areas. The state budget, the governor presented the proposed Commonwealth budget in February. We have to take into account inflation and rising costs affecting energy, employment, supplies, and current supply chain issues and pending budget litigation, which was mentioned in the last presentation. These are realities for us. How does that look in regards to millage uncertainty? The current unassigned fund balance is $1,441,589. Now, when we look at the assigned fund balance, and this is segregated for litigation for 6 years, that's $26 million. So what that means is that, for each year that we don't have a resolution to the budget litigation, we segregate $4 million. That means that's $4 million that is untouched. It sits on a shelf as we're working through this litigation. 2022 to 2023, segregated funds are not reflected above. The district will need to segregate another $4 million, which takes our total up to $30 million. Mr. Orlando will talk about where the money comes from and how we delve deeper into the financials. Ready, Mr. Orlando?
Thank you, Dr. McMean.
My pleasure.
So I'm going to go through the revenue and expenditures that are in the proposed final budget. So from this slide here, you can see that the vast majority of our funding comes from the local taxpayer, which is 85%. We get about 14% from the state for funding and 1% from the federal government. This slide here shows the anticipated revenue from our local sources. And as you can see, the current real estate taxes is where majority of the local sources come from. Please note this does not reflect the property tax reduction allocation figure since at this point in time it has not been released. When that information is released sometime in May, you'll see a reduction of that local sources number in the current real estate, and you'll see that coming into the state sources, which we'll show you later. We're also seeing a strong housing market, so we're proposed to increase our interim real estate taxes and our transfer taxes, and also we are seeing investment rates have started to improve, so we've increased that line item also. Most of the other local sources pretty much are similar to this year's budget. So our total local sources is just over $253 million. When it comes to the state sources, you can see we get approximately about $41 million as of right now. About $30 million of that comes from mostly two items, which is our retirement subsidy and our Social Security subsidy. And those figures have increased from the prior year due to our employment agreement terms. We also have new staff, as Dr. Mee mentioned earlier, and also the PESERS, which is the retirement or the pension employer contribution rate, has increased from 34.94% to 35.26% in the upcoming year. The basic education funding and also our special education subsidy do not reflect the proposed Commonwealth budget, as this is still under consideration at this time. And most of the other items pretty much are similar to what is in the current budget. And the last item is our federal sources. You can see there's about an 800,000 or so increase in our federal sources. That's mainly reflecting the ESSER and the ARP funding, as well as some additional access funding. So when you add those three sources up, our total revenue at this point in time is $297,597,370. Looking at the expenditure side, how does the money support our children? And you can see almost 2/3 of the budget is for our instructional services. And you can see it's regular ed, special ed, VOTEC, library, just name a few, make up almost 2/3. The support services, which is just about 23%. So you're looking just a couple items there, non-public and our public transportation, our maintenance and operations, and also our administration are just a few that make up that item. And we have our debt service, just under 10%. That's for our bonds that were issued for our construction projects. We have about 2.4%, which is made up mostly of non-instructional services, which are athletics and our student activities. And then we have 0.293%, which is other funding uses, which basically is our budgetary reserve, and also the general fund does support our secondary student activity clubs. This is taking the budget and breaking it down by, it's called object codes. So you can see the top two items is our salaries and our benefits. So as Dr. Amin mentioned before, we are service-oriented industry. Therefore, we have a large labor cost, and you can see the top two items are just over $235 million, which makes about 77% of our budget. And then you can see we do break down the other objects. We have our purchase and professional technical services, IU services, consultants that we use, relatively the same from this year. Our purchase property services, we some utilities, some of repair works and leases make up that line item, which are pretty much similar to this year. The 500 object, so this is other purchase services. You can see there is an increase of about $1.6 million. Mainly that's due to increase in tuition to our charter schools, special ed programs, and our VOTEC, as well as we have increases in our general insurance. We have a new school coming on building we need to insure, as well as contracted transportation. Our 600 is our supplies. You can see it's relatively the same as this year at 13 million, and that would be for our general supplies, our books, software, energy. We are seeing a little, we are obviously seeing an uptick in energy costs, as I'm sure you're aware of, hearing it in the news. Our property, which would be buying tractors, maintenance equipment, is relatively the same, slightly less than this year. And our 900 and 800 objects would be for our debt service payments, principal and interest, as well as transfers to other funds. And then we have 800,000 in our budgetary reserve. So we add up our proposed final budget for 22-23. It's $305,790,474. So in order to balance between our revenues on the previous slide and this for the expenditures, we have $8.1 million to balance the budget. So with a budgeted millage of value of just over 7.8 million, we would have an additional increase in our millage rate of 1.0464, which is the Act 1 index at 3.4%. Our budget to expenditures from last year to this year are increasing just under 4.5%. So with a median tax household assessment of around $250,000, with the millage rate increasing to 31.8232, that would be an increase of $262. And then I'll just, our next steps, so tonight is the proposed final budget approval. As Dr. Meehan said, this is required under Act 1. And again, it's just a proposed budget. So the final budget approval isn't until June. So as you can see, we have two more finance committees coming up later this week. We have staffing and information systems. And then in May, we have our curriculum presentation. And then May 16th, we have a regular business board meeting. And then at our June 13th meeting would be the final budget approval adoption. And any questions?
Ms. Garrison.
I have a question. On the slide where it says, how does the money support our children? Can we get a further breakdown of what, for each service? It's like really broad. Instructional services, like can we get a breakdown of regular, special ed, vocational, what slice of the pie? And, you know, each one of those areas.
I believe that's in the attached 2028 to the motion. It has in our breakdown.
Okay.
What is our 1100s, 1200s, 1300s are in that.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Kalish.
Thank you. I had a couple of quick questions. First, Dr. Mumeen, when we were looking at the FTEs, the principal for Black Rock Middle School is listed at half an FTE, and I'm very curious as to why both.
Yes, currently our principal, she is on special assignment. So her salary is already accounted for in this year's budget, and she goes in as a 0.5, so it's not a new position.
Oh, so the following year, she will be 1 FTE, but then we'll, okay, I understand. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
No, Vic, clarify it.
No,
for me, please.
so when we prepared the current year budget, the principal was slated to start
Right.
halfway through the year.
Right.
When discussions happened, they decided to bring the principal on for the entire year. So it's 1 FTE in this year's budget, how we only budget a 0.5. So we're making up now to put the 1 FTE in the budget.
So the following year, she will be 1 full FTE,
So
or she
in
won't
the
be?
22-23 budget, she'll appear as a 1 FTE in the budget.
Okay. My next question was on the slide, Vic, where you were talking about object codes. And
Okay.
I was curious which of those items like transportation and facilities would fall under, and then as I was writing that down, I realized that probably it's split a little in that you have like the buses in one section and the people who drive the buses in another section.
Yeah, so the object is scattered throughout all the different categories.
Right.
So it's not, if you go to the 2028, which is the attachment, it will have in there 2,700 transportation, and it'll tell you the 100, 200, 300, but basically is what's broken out here.
Okay.
It's several pages, so it's kind of hard to put it on the slide.
Okay, then where do facilities end up? Because would that be under our purchased property services?
No, so facilities goes under the 20, so we have on this slide here with support services, so the operations and maintenance comes under that. And then in the facility operations, you have all the employees, so they're under the 100 and the 200s for
Right.
every function. And then you have the 300B if they bring in a consultant. I think of one, like an architect to do something, or an engineer to come in to do something. That would be under the 300s. Under the 400s would be when some utilities under the 400, but they bring in a contractor to do a contracted maintenance. That would come under that. And then like the 500s in operations specifically is pretty much just like the general insurance property, insurance would come under that. And then you get to the 600s, you're talking about, supplies, to clean the floors and the playgrounds, to put mulch down, things of that nature, or any type of software they use. And then the 700s for them would be buying a new tractor or maybe a maintenance vehicle, basically what's going on.
Okay, so basically I just need to rejigger my brain to accounting brain that.
Yeah, it's, all these objects are in all these different functions, so it's, yeah.
I won't hold it against you. I know you didn't invent that system, but the last
You
thing.
blame the PA accounting manual on that, I can't, which is about 300 pages long.
There's a reason my degree is in education. So my last question is more of an opinion. And I'm just curious as to your feeling about whether we have enough money sitting in our cash and reserve undesignated fund balance section. I won't hold it against you. Or am I not supposed to ask opinion questions of?
No, I mean, we have, so there are different components of a fund balance, and obviously 1.4 million typically would be on the low side, I think for majority of school districts in the Commonwealth.
Okay, and can you just quickly clarify the difference between cash and reserve and undesignated fund balance?
I'm sorry, Kat?
There was one that was $800,000 that
Okay,
was.
so the budgetary reserve is basically a contingency fund, like something that you're not planning for, that something comes up. All of a sudden if we have, oil prices skyrocket, or we get in more charter school students than we budgeted for, that is something we didn't plan on, we have contingency in case we need to use that money. That's what the budgetary reserve is. The unassigned fund balance is separate. That's more on not trying to say the words without getting too much of an accountant. It's the difference between assets and liabilities, which is a whole nother category. So I don't want to bore you on that, but there's two different things. But for this budget here, the 800,000 is planned as contingency. A lot of districts put in a budgetary reserve as good fiscal management, just in case something that unexpected comes up.
And they're not overlapping pots of money, are they? Or are they?
Depends.
Cool.
That's a lawyer answer, but it depends.
All right, thank you. I'm trying. Thank you.
Mr. Lee?
Thank you. I have a few items. Could you go back to slide 14? It's the enrollment projections.
Okay.
I just, one more forward.
This one?
Yeah, no. One forward, yeah, right there.
Okay.
So I just want to clarify, because when Dr. Grip made his presentation, he was very careful to say that these were not projections. And that we shouldn't be using these to make strategic decisions because of the COVID impact, but also because it's uncertain as to, some of this was caused by potentially a temporary move to private schools. So
that's correct.
I just want to be careful when we use these numbers. We shouldn't be characterizing them as projections because he didn't characterize them as projections. He just applied a mathematical model based on the current year. Okay, so that's just a statement. One, for a number of folks here and who might be watching, they might not be familiar with the Act 1 index. So I was wondering if you could just speak a little bit to what that is and why the 3.4% millage increase is important.
So under the Act 1, there are two components of the Act 1 index. One is the CPI for secondary elementary schools, and one is called the state average weekly wage. So you take those two components, you add the two numbers together, you divide it by 2, and that becomes what's called the Act 1 index. In September of, for example, for this budget, in September of 21, the Department of Ed will certify what that rate is for school districts. So the Act 1 under the law is, this is the maximum, well, depending upon where you fall at, I call it, the base index, they call it, which applies to us, in this case was 3.4%. And that's the maximum that you can increase your millage rate unless you do apply for exceptions and are approved by PD, or if you go to a referendum.
Okay, and just to clarify, the exceptions that might allow a district to exceed the index is related to what?
Special education, the retirement or PSERS fund, and also some of the debt service, whether it's grandfather debt or if it's electoral debt.
Okay, but not necessarily programmatic increases?
No, that's not.
Okay, and sorry, just one more. With our unassigned fund balance so low, I know that our bond rating is related to the health of our fund balance. So the fact that our total fund balance remains high, even though some of it's sequestered.
Correct.
Is that going to affect our bond rating?
Well, they looked at several factors, fund balance being one of them, but also they looked at some other factors. So our last rating was back in January of 21, which they reaffirmed our AAA rating. One thing they did note is that, our fund balance is going below their scoreboard or matrix. But however, since we have a strong community and so forth, that we were able to achieve that. So we're dipping kind of, getting close. I mean, it's I don't know the word to say, but they're allowing it. But if you go through the scorecard, we're kind of really teetering probably below what they would want as a AAA.
Gotcha. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Schaffmeister?
I'm wondering about the current court case that's stand for the state and whether you're watching any speculation on when they will come back with a decision on how the funding of the underfunding of school districts across the state, and when that's impacted with the fair funding formula and how that's fit, will that affect, while we do only get 14% of our approximately from the state, do you have any opinions on how that might affect us, and predicting some kind of a decision? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm just wondering if that's going to affect anything in our budget.
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I know the fair funding, a court case has gone on for several years now, so I don't know what the conclusion is going to be. Whether or not that will impact Lower Merion, I don't really know, to be honest with you. I couldn't really give you more of an honest. I mean, Dr. Mean, I think, knows a little more details about the case.
Thinking about it from an advocacy standpoint, when looking at how the legislative branches are looking at the funding, it's hard to get across without addressing all schools. So what would it look like? Of course, for underserved school systems, it increases their budgets, and rightfully so. But the flip side of the discussion in the dialogue has been school districts like ours, who are local tax sources. Our constituents are carrying a burden. That's an issue also. Second issue, which would impact us, which could have very well helped us with Black Rock Middle School, is the deletion of Plan-Con funding, which Plan-Con funding is for construction projects, which would have helped us. That's been absent for years now. So the dialogue around fair funding, it's moving towards fair funding for all schools and how that would look. So hopefully that would be a positive thing for us. When looking at last year's budget, the governor was very overt and intentional about funding the most underserved districts. Now the discussion is not only moving towards the underserved districts, but the heavily taxed districts where local revenue carries districts like ours. So I would say, hopefully, yes. There's been a lot of discussion around some of the excess revenue that the Commonwealth has and how it will be distributed. At this point, it's been very silent, as the governor's proposed budget just came out in February. Hasn't been a lot of energy.
Great, thank you. I wanted to ask about the budget calendar. Mostly, like, if you can explain to people, sort of, it's a very prescriptive calendar that comes from the state on when every district needs to do certain things. So I wondered if you could explain that, or sort of iterate it, I guess, a little bit about which pieces are very specific that the state says you need to do this at this time.
Yeah, so I guess if you go back to this chart here, so if you look in September, I think the question was asked about the index, but also PDE also releases the budget timeline. So every school district who's subject to Act 1 has to follow this timeline. So typically for this budget in early January, either A, you're passing a resolution to stay within the index, or you're preparing a preliminary budget, and then in February passing a preliminary budget to be approved. And then as you get into the spring, into the proposed final budget, where it's the stage where we're at right now, that school boards are required to approve a proposed final budget. And then by June 30th at the latest, school boards have to approve a final budget and set the millage rate.
Great, thank you. And that sort of drives why in April, even though there's a series of numbers or information that aren't finalized yet, we still need to, like, we're required to pass a proposed budget, even though there is information that is not available yet.
Correct.
Thank you. And also one last question or clarification on the personnel piece. I think I missed it, sorry. I just wanted to clarify that those are additional projected additional personnel needs.
Correct. These are new positions that would be added into for 22-23.
Great, thank you. Mr. Lee?
Just one additional clarity, because I remember in January when we made the resolution not to exceed the Act 1 cap, there were some questions from the community about why we didn't file a preliminary budget. And that's because we made that resolution.
That's correct. When you pass the resolution, all you need to do is submit the resolution. You can't pass a resolution and submit a preliminary budget to PD. You have to do one or the other.
Great. Thank you.
Ms. Garrison?
I did have one more question about the real estate tax change, because the example is of a median household, $250,000, but that's not the median price in Lower Merion, so.
Well, that so that's the median assessment.
Okay.
So it's not the
total
selling
price?
not the
Okay,
selling price.
okay,
So
okay.
that came right from the county.
Okay.
That's the median assessment, not
I
what
see.
they sell for,
Okay,
correct?
all right, thank
Yeah,
you.
not your sales price.
Okay, thank you very much. I think those are our questions at this point.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you so much, President Klein. And as recognized in the presentation, we have upcoming presentations that will be coming up very quickly. April 27th is the Finance Committee meeting, and that's where we'll delve deeper into staffing and information in our information systems presentation. And May 11th at the Finance Committee meeting, that will be the curriculum meeting, which will bring all of these areas together, which fits under the umbrella of the full district budget. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So next, we're going to move to the next part of the agenda, the committee meeting reports. We already had our students do their representative reports. So next, Ms. Robinson will do the March 23rd finance and the April 20th finance on operations budget review, and then the student services budget review.
Thank you. The Finance Committee meeting took place here at 8:30 a.m. The meeting was in person and it was live streamed and was recorded for later viewing. That's the March 23rd meeting for those unable to attend. It was the first meeting of a series of 4 Finance Committee meetings that will be recorded regarding specific areas of the 2022-23 general fund budget. For a detailed review of the information covered in the meeting, please review the PowerPoint in board docs or view the meeting located at lmsd.org. The presentation covered a review of the operations budget within the school district budget. The operations budget also encompasses district transportation. This year, the budget covers the operation of 11 schools, including the new middle school that will open in fall of 2022. The department oversees the operation of 16 separate school district buildings, 253 acres of land, 30 natural turf playing fields, 2 artificial turf playing fields, and 2 synthetic running tracks. A third running track is included in the construction of the new Black Rock Middle School. Some facts about the operations budget are that there are $14.4 million budgeted for personnel costs. Utilities run about $2 million, and purchased services and supplies are budgeted at $5.6 million. Operation of the district buildings includes the Buildings and Grounds Department, custodial services, and the goal of providing high-quality facilities to support educational and co-curricular programs. In addition to seeking continuous improvement and efficiency of work, there is a belief that preventative maintenance is prudent and essential. In addition to the annual budget of the general fund, there is a 5-year restoration and replacement plan whose primary funding source is the Capital Reserve Fund. And the Capital Reserve Fund usually gets funds after the audit takes place for the general fund if there's any overages or surplus. The 5-year facilities improvement plan includes approximately $5 million per year for necessary replacement and restoration, such as building boilers, roof replacements, tennis court replacements, track and field, reconstruction, etc. We then transition to the student transportation budget for the 2022-23 school year. The $17.5 million budget consists of salaries and benefits of $13.9 million, $2.4 million for contracted carriers, and $1.2 million for everything else, including energy or fuel. Currently, the district transports 8,597 students to school and home, consisting of 7,628 public school students and 969 non-public school students. The department maintains and manages records for 8,556 public school students and 2,624 non-public school students. They are currently transported to 10 public schools, 90 non-public schools, and 39 special needs schools. This will expand to an 11th public school in fall of 2022. There is also a 5-year bus replacement plan to replace obsolete buses at the end of their useful life or when they become too costly to repair. Safety is the primary concern and goal. That concluded our March 23rd meeting of the operations budget. I'll now read the notes, or my notes, from the April 20th, 22 meeting of the Student Services and Special Education budget. This meeting was recorded, however, due to a technical issue, is being re-recorded for later viewing for those who were not able to attend. It took place here and was live streamed. The presentation involved a review of the Student Services and Special Education budget within the school district budget. This year, the budget covers the staffing of 11 schools, including the new middle school that will open in the fall of 2022. This is the second largest budget area of the general fund after general instruction. The total budgeted of $68.7 million consists of $55.5 million for special education, including gifted education, $5.8 million for counseling services, $4.4 million for health services, and $3 million for clinical services. Lower Merion School District Student Services Department is comprised of some 450 professionals and staff. It makes up $68.7 million of the budget and services approximately 42% of the student body, 18% having IEPs, 12% having GIEPs, 2% having GIEP and 504 plans, and 10% having 504 plans. Both LMSD and contracted service providers are used to provide supports and services for students identified with need. We began with a deeper look at the health services budget. Key drivers of the health services budget are the Department of Health mandates, requirements for the PA school code, required services for students with disabilities, and services to non-public schools within the district. We then looked at clinical services, which includes a team of school psychologists, social workers, and mental health counselors to help with crisis intervention support, and makes up approximately $3 million of the budget. The district has responsibility through Child Find to identify, locate, and evaluate all children with disabilities through the age of 21 within the district, and must also reevaluate students with disabilities minimally every 3 years, and every 2 years for students with an intellectual disability. Key influencers of the clinical services budget include a highly qualified staff, federal and state mandates, including Child Find, and evaluation responsibilities of the district. The counseling departments comprises approximately $5.8 million of the budget. LMSD has 2 career and college access counselors, 1 at each high school, as well as school counselors at each school. The department staff is responsible for assisting students in exploring, planning, and realizing their individual interests, abilities, and goals. They also oversee and manage the non-medical 504 plans, additional staff support for evening presentations throughout the year, and student support during the summer months to support the transition to the next school year costs approximately $146,000 of the budget. We then moved on to gifted education, which is provided for in the Pennsylvania School Code Chapter 16, and requires the districts to provide services and programs to provide for the identification, evaluation, and education of each and every gifted student. Gifted education is acknowledged at the federal level, but administered and mandated by the state. No funding is provided by the state for gifted education, although this is budgeted to cost approximately $4.6 million in the 2022-23 school year. Special education is the largest part of the student services budget and makes up approximately $51 million. LMSD has highly qualified special education teachers, services providers, including speech therapists, PTs, OTs, and paraprofessional support staff who ensure that we have meaningful inclusion of students with disabilities. Key influencers of the budget include federal and state mandates for special education, highly individualized IEPs needs, costs of contracted services and outside placements, including charter schools, and the fact that special education continues to be an unfunded mandate, meaning that expenses necessary to meet students' needs far exceed federal and state subsidies. That concluded our meeting, and future meetings are April 27th, staffing and IT, and May 11th, curriculum and instruction. Thank you.
Excuse me, I know I'm not supposed to speak now, but we have parents here with young children at home who came out for the kindergarten thing, and to have all of this before you have audience recognition is really a disservice to them.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. I understand the concern, however, this is a business board meeting. It's a board business meeting, and we do need to follow the rules of a business meeting.
It is true, but after the presentation that was given, when somebody asked a question, we were told that after the 2 presentations we'll be able to speak.
I suggested that after the meeting, that after the presentations, when it's time for public recognition. We're going to continue on with the agenda as is. We had a March 30th Communications and Joint Ad Hoc Committee meeting, so Mr. Lee and Mr. Mooring will provide updates.
Thank you. On March 30th, there was a combined Communications and Ad Hoc Equity and Anti-Racism Committee meeting held over Zoom. I'll be giving the communications portion of the meeting. We received an update on the status of the school messenger text feature implementation. Notifications went out to parents in March, and the feature went live on April 18th, just after spring break. We also received an update on recent communications department activities and upcoming projects, which include the Superintendent 100-Day Report, which everyone's eagerly awaiting, the budget book, the tax letter, 25-year honorees, and graduation live streams.
As Mr. Lee noted, following the committee, the communication committee portion of the meeting, we transitioned to the ad hoc committee for equity and anti-racism workshop that was rescheduled from the February meeting. And this workshop was designed to be a workshop to look at the administrative regulations related to the equity policy. And we had over 45 people in attendance on the Zoom. The meeting kicked off with some words from Dr. Mumine and Megan Schaefer. The overall flow of the meeting began with a simple yet effective presentation from Ms. Schaefer, and then small group breakout discussions and workshops to do the workshopping of the AR policy. The group then reported back and shared out of the questions or the focus of their breakout sessions. The breakouts were, again, for community discourse and dialogue that focused on the equity policy with unique tasks and assignments for each group to moderate the level of overlap between the groups. There was focused questions that were reviewed to address each section of the assigned policy. Each group appointed a note taker and had access to a shared Google Doc with a policy and guiding questions to address. A sample of the questions were things like what works, what's missing, and what else is needed. Each subgroup was asked to address a series of questions for each section, and the small group breakout discussion was robust, productive, and open. As a wrap-up activity, the large group returned, and each group shared some top-line ideas from their breakout session and overall reaction to the process used. Teams were given time to process when Megan Schaefer asked for additional feedback within the Google documents to be updated within the next 48 hours. The group as a whole stayed for an additional hour and discussed the positive experience and the need for more meetings in this format and the overall goal of the equity within the school team members. Dr. Mumine shared that future sessions and work would explore the crosswalk of the strategic plan and reboot and refresh of the plan with an equity lens. This meeting format was very much appreciated, and the school team did a fantastic amount of work in preparing all for the positive experience that was had by all.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Yes, and I must say, since that meeting, we have eliminated the word reboot. With the strategic plan, it's going to be refresh, semantics. So thank you.
Next, we have the report from the April 6th Curriculum Committee.
Great. And April 6th, we had the Curriculum Committee meeting here in this room at 8:30 a.m. The Curriculum Committee met to review textbook proposals for the College Prep Calculus and AP Environmental Science. We also reviewed the Comprehensive Classroom Contract. And lastly, there was a review of the Prepare Lmsd Crisis Prevention and Response presentation. The calculus textbook called Calculus and Its Applications by Goldstein, Lay, Schneider, and Asmar was reviewed. It replaces the 2006 Halton Mifflin textbook that did not provide digital access. This textbook does provide digital access for teachers, not only to this text, but also to the entire digital catalog offered at a cost of $26,000, $252 for 111 textbooks and 6 years of digital access. The AP Environmental Science textbook, Environmental Science in AP Course 3rd edition by Friedland and Rayla. This was the top recommendation from APE's teacher forums. Digital access, it provides digital access including access on mobile devices, tablets and phones. That provides online homework with targeted feedback, online formative quizzes to find related information in text. The curriculum is aligned with the 2019-2020 College Board changes, and also it took into consideration environmental decisions and impact on communities of color, both locally and globally. This text replaces the Cengage textbook, 2015 Cengage textbook at a cost of $53,464 for 280 textbooks and 6 years of digital access. The review of the independent contractor agreement between LMSD and the Comprehensive Classroom. The scope of the consulting contract is covering the in-person training of teachers, stepping into SOMOS and assessment for acquisition, consulting for vertical alignment and philosophy. The deliverable number 1 is a curriculum map for each grade level with material recommendations. Deliverable number 2 is departmental philosophy, draft consulting to align with level 1 middle school and high school standards, acquisition boot camp, digital access for 16 to 25 teachers. The contract is not to exceed $11,500 and was recommended for a vote at this meeting. The Prepare LMSD Crisis Prevention presentation Prepare is the school crisis and intervention prevention training curriculum for school personnel in crisis preparedness. The curriculum was developed by the National Association of School Psychologists. It is implemented in school districts in all 50 states and multiple countries. Every Student District Succeeds Act, which is federal law, includes a significant emphasis on the comprehensive school safety, which this curriculum provides. The model includes the following hierarchical and sequential set of activities: prevent and prepare for crises, reaffirm physical health and welfare perceptions of safety and security, evaluate psychological trauma and risk, provide crisis interventions and respond to mental health needs, examine the effectiveness of crisis preparedness. The LMSD certified national trainers are Dr. Adil Nuar and Terry Quinlan. They then are prepared to facilitate and provide 2 workshops to staff. Workshop number 1, prevention through recovery. Training goals for participants to acquire the knowledge, skills, and confidence to facilitate crisis prevention, establish a safe school climate to prevent and protect from crisis incidents, and to develop an emergency operations plan to mitigate traumatic impact and promote recovery. Workshop number 2, responding to acute traumatic stressor in schools. The goal is for participants to acquire the knowledge and begin to provide immediate mental health crisis interventions to students, staff, and community members who are simultaneously exposed to an acute traumatic stressor. This training is designed to provide teams with the knowledge and skills needed to meet immediate needs of students, staff, and the following school-associated crisis. The key concept in mitigation of risk applies to our suicide risk assessment, which updates our policy 245, suicide prevention and self-harming behaviors. Threat assessment, the CSTAG training provided by Dr. Julie Amato and Student Services and Administration, and the school safety and climate. School safety and climate training for LMSD, admin, Lower Merion Police Department, and all staff. The mental health trainings and workshops provided over the past 2 years include trauma-informed care and racial trauma, suicide awareness and prevention, health and wellness for staff, and parent trainings. The Lower Merion School District commitment to prepare includes ongoing training and staff development, in-house national certified trainers, crisis response teams, and the Prepare lens applied throughout, including our emergency operations plan, board policy, and district health and safety plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mooring. Next, we have the April 8th policy report from Ms. Robbins.
Thank you. We received updates and overviews of the administrative regulation, which Mr. Mooring discussed, and also the homework policy. and migration of policies and administrative regulations to board docs. There were no policies for adoption this week, and first readings, we had policy 810, student transportation. This policy was brought forward for changes relating to our new alignment of schools from K to 4, 5 to 8, and 9 to 12. The definition of elementary student and secondary school student were amended to reflect the new alignment. Policy 217, high school graduation requirements, was discussed. This policy is being changed to incorporate an amendment relating to students enrolled in the career and technical education programs. Students will now be able to substitute courses of the career and technical high school to satisfy graduation requirements by obtaining permission of the building level teams. Policy 235 was brought forward for first reading. It will be undergoing, it has been undergoing a long overhaul and will be published for comment and further revisions. Then we had administrative regulations. They are 206-1, assignment of students within the district. This AR is being revised to reflect the new middle school boundaries for the middle schools in anticipation of Black Rock Middle School coming on schedule. And that concluded our meeting. We have a meeting scheduled for May 6th, which is our next meeting, and as an amendment to the calendar, please note that there will be a meeting in June 3rd.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. And then finally, our April 21 Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting. Ms. Chaffmeister.
Thanks. I'm last. I'm it. So we had our meeting on April 21st at 8:30 a.m. in this room. We were live streamed, and here are the notes. We recommend a list of bills for approval covering the period of March 16th to April 19th. We recommend for approval the following: $133,565.19 to CDI LLC, which includes $81,340.18 for Dell Compellent Storage Array under CoStar's contract at 55 Rock Hill Road. The hardware supports off-site data recovery, big hard drives, and backup the critical systems of district-wide. And then we have, and CoStar's is the Commonwealth of PA Cooperative Purchasing Program. And 52, a part of that is $52,255.01 for maintenance and support not covered under the cooperative purchasing contract, and that's for over a 5-year period. $4,988 to VEX Robotics for the VEX IQ Classic Bundle for instructional technology at Black Rock Middle School. It aligns with the other middle schools, and as they're rewriting computer classes across the middle schools, this bundle will support the new system. $9,871.29 to Stevenson Equipment Inc. under Sourcewell contract for repair on the ODB leaf vacuum that vacuums the grounds, the leaves on the grounds around on the schools. It's in need of repair, and it's better to repair and less expensive than purchasing a new one. $2,948.68 to Amazon Business to purchase kitchen equipment for Black Rock Middle School Family and Consumer Sciences and the collaboration room under the Omnia Partners Cooperative Purchase Contract. It's for mini refrigerators for the classroom. $12,854.15 to Ceramic Shop to purchase kilns, Brentware Car X, and E12T 120 volt 12 key for the art program at Black Rock Middle School. $49,875 to BSN Sports, and that breaks down as $12,739 for fall athletic equipment at Black Rock Middle School, and it's under a CoStar's contract. $37,136 for recreation and fitness equipment at Black Rock Middle School under a CoStar's contract. $7,146 to Scala Hardware for indoor digital signage at Black Rock Middle School, and that's under a CoStar's contract. $42,017.40 to School Specialty for science program supplies at Black Rock Middle School under the Omnia Partners Cooperative Purchasing Contract, and that's for lab glassware. We accepted the 4722 and accept the we suggest for approval to accept the 4722 22 bid from Gessler Construction to reconstruct the tennis courts at Welsh Valley under Lmsd project number 522201. This includes $329,700 base bid plus 2 alternatives at $2,000 each, giving a grand total of $33,700. Accept the April 8th, 22 bid from Gessler Construction to construct the asphalt play area at Penwyn Elementary School under LMSD project number 252203. That includes $187,000 base bid amount plus a $10,000 alternative for a total of $197,000. We recommend for approval of following district contracts: $130 per hour agreement for MCIU to provide consultation and training by a mental health provider for specialized supports to students with disabilities under a previously approved, and it's an add-on to a previously approved intergovernmental agreement for shared services. A new agreement with Bedford, Freeman, and Worth for purchase of AP Science textbooks, and that's in accordance with what Sean just read under the, under the curriculum committees, meaning, and it's for Lower Merion High School and Harrington High School. And a new agreement with Savas for purchase of calculus textbooks also for Lower Merion High School and Harrington High School, and that was also covered under the curriculum committee. $27,720 for renewal of Nearpod Premium Plus for use of 5 secondary buildings across the district. These are heavily used at the secondary buildings and provide articles and videos. $22,802 for renewal of Edmonton Exact Path online math program used for the grades 4 to 5 summer bridge program, and also it'll be used in the 22-23 school year. It's for diagnostic assessments. It's customizable for teachers and students. Not to exceed $11,500 new agreement with Comprehensible Classroom for a consultant to provide 2 days of in-person training from 5/17/22 to 5/18 for the district's rural language department at middle school. That was also covered in the curriculum committee meeting. The $22,357.50 renewal for district-wide premium access to Pear Deck for all teachers, staff, administrators, and students. In the 22-23 school year, teachers can use Pear Deck to create more interactive presentations. It's a teacher dashboard, allows teachers to see how individual students respond in real time. We recommend renewing the Orbit software Bus Boss support annual agreement for $8,831. This provides access to the busware software from July 1, 22 to June 30th, 23. The software is the backbone of the bus operations with routing software and student management. We recommend renewing frontline education and custom order for absence and substitution management for a 3-year period under the existing master agreement. It's used across the district for teacher absences. It's a 0% increase for 7/1/22 to 6/30 at $50,549.50, and then 4% for successive year in years 2 and 3. So 7/1/23 start year would be $52,571.43, and 7/1/24 start would be $54,674.29. This recommendation also includes an addendum to the master agreement that approves updates with no substantial changes. We recommend approval of a $542,050 quote and short-term payment agreement with AppleLink to purchase the computers for students under the 1-to-1 program. This is for the next school year, starting on 22, and we're getting ahead of supply chain issues, submitting the purchase to Apple now, but it will be, these funds will come from the next school year. We recommend, or fiscal year. We recommend it for approval $102,664.12 for a renewal subscription to Resido Palo Alto for firewall and additional services. It protects our infrastructure that includes PowerSchool and email, SharePoint, and other services that are specifically hosted here. We recommend for approval of security services agreement with Advanced Protection Company to provide security guards from July 1, 22 through June 30th at a cost not to exceed $530,000. This will cover 12 security guards. The contract will provide 12 guards with 1 at each school and the 1 for the administration. We currently have 11. They currently cover 11 in this current school year, but with Black Rock Middle School, we'll be adding 1 more. We recommend for approval, payment costs billed on an hourly basis not to exceed $60,000 by the Township of Lower Merion for township engineer inspections of the site constructions of Black Rock Middle School. The township permit that they do the township permits require that they do inspections. The township engineer performs these inspections and is billed to the time to the property owner. The projecting this will be the amount needed for further inspections. The township invoice to Lmsb for the inspections from September 27-21 to December 31st, 21 was $14,473, and that's included in the $60,000 authorization. And this level of presence is typical for a job this large. And then luckily, we only have 3 change orders. The change orders for Black Rock Middle School, we have 2 from Gessler Construction. It's number 109 for $35,186 credit as part of the entry signal construction. This credit is deletion of trees and fence replacement at an adjacent property. We were asked not to perform the work. CCD-0101 for $100 credit. That's the final cost of adding trees, and was when it was completed, it was for less than approved. And then the other change order is to IMC, and that's number 03-53 for $2,496, and that's the cost of adding framing and gypsum wall to enclose a column at the library, which is in a very tall ceiling, and this was not part of the original documents for such a tall space. As for the Black Rock Middle School update, we're still on time with a schedule for occupancy on August 18th of this year. Construction costs include this much. Change orders are $87,257,000 and $843, sorry, compared to $87,985,000 and $821 that is budgeted. The forecast change orders are projected are for plumbing and electrical. The upcoming construction changes orders and soft costs are projected to at $104,809 and $809,100. That's higher than the $101,563,038 projected costs at the time of award, but are lower than the $114,000 and I'm sorry, 114, I wish. $114,062,616 construction document estimate. This amount includes a disputed amount of $106 million that will be adjudicated. We will also continue to look for places where we can save costs to help bring this down. For the next month's F&P meeting, we have asked for all change orders to be totaled in broader categories of why the change order was needed. Currently, what's currently happening at IT installations are being coordinated with the expectation of the first round of furniture delivery with installations for June. If you want, this was a lot of the Black Rock Middle School update, a lot of numbers in that throwout. There is a copy of this on the April 21st facilities and purchasing meeting agenda. It's the last item on the agenda, and there's a PDF, and there's pictures in the PDF if you want to see the progress of the school. The next F&P meeting is Thursday, May 12th at 8:30 a.m. in this boardroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schaffmeister.
I just want to correct that some of the numbers are millions, so.
Yes.
Okay, so list the numbers. Many of those are millions and not thousands, so you should look at the report if you want to know the exact numbers.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to read fast.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Next on our agenda, we do have an additional agenda item that we want to add tonight, which requires by law that we vote on that. So our additional agenda item, the administration recommends the addition of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Lower Merion School District and the Lower Merion Education Association to tonight's agenda. I want to take a moment and thank both the administration and the Lower Merion Education Association for their work on this. Given the staffing shortfalls as a result of the pandemic and other things, market conditions, this allows us as a district to increase our bus driver pay to be more competitive with other areas and also raise the minimum starting wage to $15 an hour for several of our staffing areas. So are there any questions from the board on that, adding the agenda item? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. This motion was an approval to have the item added to the agenda, but the actual motion will be approved with the agenda. At this time, we'll hear public comment. If you would like to speak at tonight's meeting and have not signed up yet with Mrs. LaPera, please do so now. For those of you joining us via the webinar, the chat feature will now be open, and you'll see a 10-minute timer up here on your screen. You can submit your comments and/or questions via the chat feature, both in person and via chat. Please be sure to begin with your full name and where you reside within the district. It's important in order for your comment to be shared. Ms. LaPera, do we have any in-person comments for tonight's meeting? And I'd also like to note if there are any students, that we put the students at the top of the list.
I won't be able to tell if there's students on the list, so if there are any students here that are signed up, then please come up.
No.
Okay, then we have Allie Lou Brown, then we have Jill Altschuler, and then Holly Manzoni.
Hi, I'm Allie Lou Brown, and I'm from Penn Valley. So I'm here tonight to talk about the student survey that will be given out soon. I think everyone got an email from Dr. Gladioso that it will be out soon, but we didn't have a date as to when the student survey is going out. But before you send out or have the students fill out the survey, I would like to make a recommendation. So before I do, I just want to give you a quick background, how I came to this recommendation. I've been an active advocate of sleep, and I'm also a volunteer with several school activities since I have 3 daughters. I've also been a Girl Scout leader for the past 14 years, and currently I have a group of 10th grade girls who I've known since 1st grade. As a tradition, Girl Scouts are encouraged to earn their Gold Award by the end of high school. Our troop started discussing and brainstorming some topics and various issues on mental health. Mental health have been brought up several times. And we meet weekly, so most of our meeting involves a lot of sharing of their lives, their school, their activities. So it's a very close-knit group, and they have told me that oftentimes they don't feel heard or seen. They feel like that very little can change because this has been their experience at school. They talked a lot about different surveys that they have filled out, and they don't even know what the results are at the end of it. I'm thinking one of them may be the pay survey. I'm not quite sure. But they don't see any reasons to take them seriously. That's what they said to me, since they really don't know what happens after the survey. And here we are spending thousands of dollars to do another survey again. And therefore, I'd like to make the following recommendations. Hopefully, a couple days before they take the survey, I recommend that Dr. Mameen make a formal announcement that there will be changes coming and that the voices are important, including diverse opinions, open ideas, all good and bad will be heard without penalization, and starting with this survey. And then maybe reinforced it with principals and assistant principals and teachers and staff. Number 2, state why we are doing this, or maybe talk about the concerns that you've been hearing, building relationships, better communication, and, safe and welcoming school climate, and maybe even some of their values. So, and then maybe state a date when the results will be viewed by all.
Thank you.
And then small informal gatherings of students to talk about the survey, and then maybe lead to some measurable action steps to that.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you.
Jill Altschuler, then Holly Manzoni, and Lisa President.
Hi, Jill Altschuler, Marion Station. I'm just going to piggyback on what Allie was saying. We've been talking with a group of parents who have kids who've had some unfortunate experiences, ranging from a little bit on the more minor side to major, and have gone through reporting processes or just confiding in what would hopefully be a trusted adult, and basically have gotten to the point where they don't feel like they're being heard or anything is being done. And, you know, we have met with Dr. Mumine enough to know that we feel pretty confident that this survey is really going to be different from ones that have been in the past in terms of really the results being something leading to action. But we can't say that the students feel the same way, and I think it would really be impactful, as Ali mentioned, having Dr. Mumine, the new superintendent, who I think really is getting to know many of the students, to himself tell the students about the survey and potential changes, what the results are going to be used to do. And again, supported by principals and assistant principals to relay this to the kids as well. And then even, you know, have the teachers prepared with some similar points to talk about, to really try and bolster the confidence that the kids might actually, some who might not bother to put much thought into filling out the survey, might feel comfortable doing so and maybe feel a little optimistic and hopeful. And where am I? 1 minute? More? Okay. Yes. So what else do I want to say? Hold on. That's basically the gist. But we do, I know it's time sensitive because the email did just go out about this survey coming out to the students soon, so I don't know how quickly this can be decided upon as something that can happen. And if there's any flexibility, meaning we have to, you know, push back the student survey a little, I don't know how feasible that is, but we do really think that it's important if you really want to get a true representation of student perspective and voice, that something like this be done. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Altschuler.
Thank you. And Ms. Altschuler and also Mrs. Brown, this is an extension of the discussion we had yesterday at the Ask the Superintendent meeting. As I stated yesterday, points are well taken. We are putting some measures in place to be able to communicate with the students the importance of the survey. And yes, we will be able to move that information through the buildings via the principals and also perhaps with the teachers. The results will be used for us as we action plan for the 22-23 school year. So yes, points well taken, and thank you again.
Thank you. Good evening, Holly Manzoni, Wynwood. I'd like to thank you for starting out the presentations with that one slide showing the 5 factors that are impacting the budget. I think it's real important for the public to know. We basically understand your day-to-day job of running the schools, but it's important that the public understand that there are these other factors. I think you could make your job a little bit easier if you take that one factor about the accessory fields at Black Rock Middle School off the list. We don't need them. With the fields being off campus from the new school, you're not going to be able to use them for gym classes. So the only thing that you could potentially use those fields for would be after-school sports, which of course are important, but following the enrollment study, whether we believe that or not, there's not a huge amount of anticipated growth in the number of kids who would be using those fields. I understand that there are people in the community who say, but we need those fields, even if it's not for the schools. The community has a shortage of playing fields, and that may well be true. But the legislature of Pennsylvania has created a Department of Education to educate our kids. There is no Department of Recreation. I can understand that there would be a feeling that you're building the fields anyway for the kids, let the community use them when they're not in use by the schools. but that's really not what the school budget is intended to do, and it is 85% of our property taxes. So my suggestion is, why not let the community fields be covered by the township? It would save you a lot of money and a lot of headaches. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manzoni.
Lisa Prosnitz, Jason Herman, and then Yair Lev.
Sorry. Lisa Prosnitz, Penn Valley. Thank you all for your time. Glad to hear about full day K, thrilled for Mr. Johnson, but I'm here again to discuss healthy school start times. I'd like to first invite you all and the community to come to the ISC and Lmsd Parent Education Zoom session tomorrow at 7, where Dr. Indira Guru Bhagavachula, LMSD parent, pen physician, and sleep expert, will be talking with parents about sleep needs for kids grades K through 12. Ms. Megan Schaefer will also be there to answer questions. Zoom links on the LMSD calendar and in all school newsletters. Over the past several years, our elected school board directors have agreed that sleep was a priority. It was the most frequently submitted question from our students, parents, and community for the most recent two school board candidate debates. We meet here a year after the debate with some productive discussions with the school's neighbors about the Arnold Field lights, yes, but with no relief for our students. No relief for the students who are in secondary school this year, since we've started this effort in full swing in 2014. Approximately 2,700 high school students annually have lost an hour of sleep a night for the past 8 years. Cumulatively, that's 486,000 school nights, during which students did not have the opportunity to sleep according to their biological schedule. That's on us as a community. How many more hours of sleep needs to be lost? I understand that the school board has a lot happening, and I'm grateful to all of you for your dedication, truly. But I'm here again to respectfully push you to take action on behalf of our students and untangle school start times from the lights on Arnold Field. No doubt having lights will make things better for our athletes. I have 2 of them. But to ask our students to suffer in a way that I can only describe as abusive when I see students struggle to wake at 6 a.m. in the middle of deep REM sleep, it isn't right. This is a safety issue for all of our students, athletes included. In the interim, I respectfully ask that we push our school start times up 30 minutes as a stopgap measure, whether for 1 year or 5 until a more substantial change could be made. While this is far from ideal, it would offer our adolescents a chance for more sleep. The district has a history of putting out fire after fire instead of working proactively. I hope that you truly understand our children have been and continue to struggle. I do not want to see another tragedy in LMSD. Enough of our students are struggling to manage on a day-to-day basis that we, no, you, our school board directors and administration, must make this a priority. School start times are single-handedly related to every single issue that we talk about. Mental health, yes, but also equity, opportunity gaps, special needs, risk-taking behavior, driver safety, student health, student behavior, academic performance, athletic safety, physical recovery, physical performance, general student contentment, engagement. It all can be improved with sleep. And if you could clarify, if we need 5 bus drivers for 22-23, I'm just curious how many we would need for a change in school start times. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Prosnitz.
Mr. Herman?
Hi, good evening. Jason Herman from Ballard-Kinwood. First, I understand that you guys have a policy and a procedure and that you run through the agenda, but I would ask you to consider in the future, possibly after your presentation, allowing the community to speak. To wait 2.5 hours when you have children at home and to come up, I think really does a disservice to the community. I think ultimately what you're doing is you're silencing the community voices. People are reluctant to come out to school board meetings when their voices, and they have to wait 2.5 hours to be heard. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is for the full day kindergarten, you spent 15 minutes or so highlighting the success and of the K+ program, which is wonderful to see, and how successful it is, how much of an impact it's having on our children currently that are taking advantage of it. I would just ask that, you highlighted the enrollment and the staffing analysis, the facilities analysis, and the curriculum build. all three of those, I don't see why they can't be done now. I think the analyses between the enrollment and staffing, you know, for next year already. You know already the facilities analysis, and you already know the curriculum. We're one of, I think we figured it out, of the 85 schools, we're one of 15 that doesn't have a full-day kindergarten program. You can look at any of the surrounding towns. You can look at any other state that has it. Most states require it. So I think these are things that could potentially be looked at in advance, and the timeline, I understand that, obviously there's a budget component of it, but what I would suggest is that maybe these analysis and the curriculum you can work through in the next coming months over the summer and far before September. And then even based on that information, then you can come together as a group and say, well, is it financially feasible? Because the first step is figuring out the analysis and the numbers. And then the second piece is the budgetary component of it. But to wait until the fall and then starting in the fall and then waiting to the winter, I mean, this is going to get pushed off for another 2, 3, 4 years. It's just unrealistic. And I just don't see what it is that is impeding you from starting that process now. We have all the information. And then the last thing I would just ask is that you've mentioned the lawsuit several different times that's ongoing. My question would be, and I get that you don't respond in it, but my question is that if the district wins, what happens to that money, right? Is it earmarked for something? I'm not talking about full-day kindergarten, I'm just saying in general. What happens to that money? If we lose, what happens to that money? And then the other pieces of it is there an insurance component? Do we have insurance for this as a result of it? Has that even been looked at? I think that there's a lot that needs to be, for transparency reasons, shown to the community as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Herman.
Mr. Lab?
Thank you so much, Mr. Herman. I'll respond as the next speaker comes up. We've been talking about, I know we started the discussion last week, we talked about the many factors that play into this decision, whereas it's simply not prudent to just jump right in and do it without, without deep assessment and planning. Transportation being an issue, which we spoke about, but also probably one of the largest overriding issues is the budget. There is a cost. We just went through a budget presentation where we did not we have our budget certified at not exceeding the 3.4% index. In the event, and I'm just saying this is hypothetically because there are so many other factors for the administration to be able to bring a recommendation to the table in such quick notice, is that, exceeding the 3.4% index will, if perfect scenario, we had facilities in place, we had personnel in place, we had transportation in place, and we say, hey, we have a recommendation, it will have to go to referendum to the taxpayers, and because it does have a budgetary cost. So again, with the schedule that we put together, and I know there's going to be, it's very true. It will exceed the 3.4%. I said hypothetically, and I'm going to give another broad picture. We just saw a large budget presentation. Personnel, that's a cost, which is going to take us past 3.4. Transportation, we don't have drivers to do it. If we said we could do it tonight, we don't have drivers. That's another cost, which is in this, actually being approved in this agenda this evening. Also, facilities, changing the facilities up, that is a cost. So these are realistic challenges, but not barriers that's going to take us off of our path.
I'm sorry,
Excuse me, sir, it's someone else's chance to speak.
Yeah.
If I could just jump in, and I understand everyone's impatience around this, and I don't want to speak for everyone on the board, but I can say every single person on here supports full-day kindergarten. So the fact that we're all here telling you that this is the timeline means there's a lot of issues that need to be worked out. I understand you feel like we could plan today. We don't have a good read on how many kindergartners are going to show up this fall. So we really need that number to effectively plan. Any plan we would do today would be wiped out this fall when we get actual kindergarten numbers coming in. I mean, I do projections for a living. I do modeling for a living. This is not the right time to start that analysis. We could start the analysis, you're right. But half of that would be throwaway work. And I just, I want to be clear, like, I don't want to speak for everyone here, but everyone here supports full-day kindergarten. And we're as impatient as you are. But it has to be done correctly. And there is a tax implication. And, again, it's hypothetical. My sense is, without full-day kindergarten, we're already at the tax limit. And part of that is because 77% of our budget is staffing. And there are contractually obligated raises and increases and things. That's what makes up the increase, the bulk of it. So we don't have any control over that. So for us to make this investment and do it right, we have to take our time because we only have one chance at it.
I'm going to speak, and I'm going to try to speak in 3 minutes, but I'm very tired. I've been awake since 4 o'clock. So if I'm going to say that. So if I steal half a minute, please give me that half a minute. My name is Yair, and I live in Marion Station. And I appreciate all the committee and the board for speaking with us and the doctors who basically gave this presentation. I will say, in the same way that you're speaking for everybody else, because of this device and Facebook and WhatsApp, all of us have been committing it throughout this presentation. And I can tell you that dozens of people were very upset about this presentation. So I know that you feel this way and you're doing the analytics. But listen, we had 40 years to prepare for this. We've been speaking about it since last meeting. 40 years we've been having. Dr. Mumin, you can't imagine how much we appreciated last week when he came, after everybody left, or most of the people left, he came, and he spent so much time with us and talking to us. And you know what his message was? His message was, it's going to be difficult, and I can promise you one thing, it's not going to happen in September of 2022. He said that. But it can happen in September of 2023. And that is why our logo, I'll show you, is this. Because it's going to happen in September of 2023. We are thousands of parents, forgive me, thousands of parents who are demanding this. We are 85% of the payers of the Lower Marion District, and we want it to happen. And when we hear this presentation, when we hear, board member Kalish, who ran on the premise of, I'm going to get this done. And she says in this after the presentation, so do you think it's possible to happen in September of 2024? Why? Why can't it happen in September of 2023? Why do we need to get the demographer in November, 7 months from now? Why? My wife opened a pediatric dentist practice. I know about demographers. You hire them. You work with demographers. You don't have to wait for 7 months for this. You don't have to wait for a committee until October 2022, 6 months from now, to open this. You don't have to wait for things to go to another FDK region, which we have all of the regions around us are FDKs. You don't have to wait until January. That was in the presentation. 1.5 minutes. I asked for 30 seconds more. You don't have to wait. Why can't we go now to the FDKs, to all the districts around us? Why do we have to wait 8 months until then? That doesn't make any sense. We're talking about 1.5 years from now. And this is what, I'm going to end with this. We are the parents. More than 1,000 parents, I'm telling you, more than 1,000 parents that we know of who are interested in this, who are pushing for this. Top priority. We are the parents. This is what we're asking for. It's a high priority, and this is what we're going to get. With your support and with all of your support, because I know that you all support this. It's just a matter of priorities. You can make it happen. And you know what? We all, the thousands of parents here, are more than happy to support you. We have lawyers, we have education, we have special education. I'm a doctor, so I'm useless, but there's a lot of people who can help you in any efforts that you want. We'll sit on committees, on subcommittees, and we will do what's right to make it happen. Enough, 40 years. Thank you. Wow.
Thank you. Lucy McNichol, Ruth Jenkin, Allison Scissor Nathanson.
Hi, Hi, everyone. I'm Lucy McNichol, and I live in Wynwood. I just want to start off by saying I love public schools. My husband's a public school teacher. My mother just retired. And I love the support that I hear from this board. But I want to know more specifics on that timeline. Why is it that there's no sense of urgency, it feels like, behind this? The next board report on this will be in March of 2023, which is a full year from now. I would just like to know when we can expect a more detailed timeline. And it does feel like the curriculum review, as others have said, could be happening now. You already offer full-day kindergarten, and it seems like it's really successful. So I would ask that you please give this a little bit more of a sense of urgency that I think it deserves. I have a daughter in kindergarten right now, and she's in a room that doesn't have a bathroom. So I think some of the facilities concerns that you brought up don't feel like they hold water. So it's just really frustrating, and I would ask that you give it the urgency it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McNichol.
Ms. Jenkins?
Ruth Jenkins in Wynwood. This is not rocket science, and when 85% of the schools around Pennsylvania have full-day kindergarten, we can model after them. I know that we have our budget to deal with, and we may be able to remove some things from the budget. As Holly said, we don't need to tear down trees and build playgrounds. We don't need lights on Arnold Field. Which is more important, to have lights on Arnold Field or to have full-day kindergarten? Make a choice. You don't have to have everything. And I think right now the priority is full-day kindergarten, as you can see from the support from the community. The full-day kindergarten that's in existence now did not come from the board. It came from me. And I was the one that suggested in 2013 that we have a full-day kindergarten for at-risk students. And I met with a tremendous amount of opposition from the board. And finally, they said, all right, let's try it. We'll do a pilot program. Well, the pilot program turned out to be wonderful. And I know that you want to take credit for it, but I don't think you do anything unless there is a push. And you've got the push here. This is what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins.
Allison? Then we have Lindsay Racklin and Abigail Rubin.
We have a few Allisons. Yeah, that's me. Hello, Allison Zisser Nathanson, Marion Station. Thank you for hearing us tonight. I'm going to look at my notes. My mind is tired after a full-time work and parenting young children that is important to acknowledge. I am here in two capacities, as a parent and as a clinical child psychologist who specializes in early childhood. I'm sensitive to the process of a complex operation and the importance of a quality research-informed implementation. That being said, I see this timeline and, as has been mentioned, feel zero urgency that is felt by countless parents. Truth be told, I am actually embarrassed to admit to others that I moved to a district that does not offer full-day kindergarten, and that is true, embarrassed, as this is suggestive of an environment that in an antiquated manner does not acknowledge the multifactorial demands of today's children and families. 3 hours of condensed instruction in a year as foundational as kindergarten does not care for our children. Shuttling children between kindergarten and wraparound is not caring for our children. Burdening income-strapped families with additional childcare coverage so they can work a full day is not caring for our children. Every day that this school district does not offer full-day kindergarten is a day that this district is not caring for our children. Feel the urgency that we feel and see in our homes every day and in the homes of our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nathan.
Lindsay Racklin?
going to stand to the side because I'm so short. I'm Lindsay Rockland from Marion Station. I want you to realize that it's been a hardship for all of us. Almost all of us over here have small children who would be going into kindergarten. I have a 5-month-old. I have a 4-year-old. Most of these people do too. Like I'm not nursing my baby tonight because I had to be here to make a push for full-day kindergarten. I want you to understand that sure, there are people who got some accolades and some awards tonight, and then they left. We've been here, leaving our little kids at home with sitters or partners because this is this important to us. I'm not going to comment on the ill effects of, or there hasn't been a comment on the ill effects of half-day kindergarten on the families involved. We talked about like the educational effects and what it means to go full day versus half day. But especially when you're thinking of women and lower income families that either have to pay for private kindergarten to get that full day coverage or pay wraparound. Wraparound is $700 a month, and it requires, my kid is on 4 buses a day just to go to morning kindergarten and then get sent here and then go back to the homeschool and then come back home. He's 6 and he's on 4 buses a day. I'm thankful that he doesn't have motion sickness. Like there are some kids who do. It's just more and more and more and more reasons why we need full day kindergarten. We are actual people. This isn't just like we're asking for you to put out all this money so we can, I don't know. There's the large influx of first graders that come about every year show you how great the demand is for full day. Those kids are all coming from private. Or who knows, or moving into the district once they realize that they can't have their kid in full day kindergarten, so they're moving in for first grade. We have numbers. Can we not make projections based on those? I'm not a demographer. It's not my specialty, but it can't be completely out of the blue. The same with the curriculum. We have basic ideas. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are full day kindergartens, a lot of them. A whole lot of them, most of them, 85% in Pennsylvania have full-day kindergarten. And we're talking about how this curriculum will take so much time to prepare. Let's see what they're doing, or there. We have lots of neighbors who are doing full-day kindergarten. What can we do to bring this to us and make a sense of urgency about it? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rockland.
Abigail Rubin.
Hi, everybody. I'm Abigail Rubin. I'm from Bala-Cynwyd. Thank you, everybody, for making the time for this presentation that we got to see before. I've heard a lot. There's a lot of energy going on. There are a lot of feelings going on. I just want to kind of reiterate that we are so eager for this to happen. We want to work with you. We want to make this happen together as kind of mutually beneficially as we possibly can. This is an expectation that we have. 2023 is the ask we're making, but we're here to work with you. We want to be on subcommittees. We want to help you make subcommittees. I love volunteering. It's actually one of my passions. I'm volunteering to gestate a baby right now. So I'm serious when I say we want to be useful. We want to be partners. And as everybody has kind of already mentioned, the urgency, we feel it, and we're not alone in this feeling. We have neighbors who are of all these different kind of ages and stages who are on the same page. You said it yourselves. Everybody's agreeing that this is a need. Let's please make this happen and please put us to work. I'm speaking for the whole group here. We have a petition that has 716 people signed it as of right now. It's continuing to get support. We're really serious about this. Let's please make this happen by 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rubin.
And that's all of our in-person.
Ms. Brooks, can you read the comments from the chat, please?
Absolutely. Jamie Selway, Haverford. The proposed 3.4% tax hike would be the highest since 2016, up from 2% last year, and materially higher than our average increase of 2.4% over the past 5 years. To meet COVID needs, LMSD received over $2 billion of federal grants. Last fiscal year, LMSD ran a budget surplus of $17 million. The administration's comprehensive presentation is welcome, but this ill-advised substantial tax hike should be reimagined in a lower direction. LMSD can easily afford it. Because of financial strains already affecting our community, too many of our families can't. Danielle Joyce, 307 Claremont Road, Villanova. As a community member with a vested interest in the timely implementation of full-day kindergarten, I'm curious if the members of the board support full-day kindergarten as an improved learning philosophy to the current half-day format. Mark Fasano, Wynwood. While I appreciate your characteristically deliberative approach as applied to FDK, we need to more urgently prioritize this. Every district bordering LMSD except Haverford has had full-day kindergarten for many years. If we're going to be forced to stack rank priorities, there's no greater priority than our little ones. They are the most developmentally, socially, and academically vulnerable, especially after 2 years of pandemic setbacks. We're failing our youngest learners in not providing this basic essential service, which builds the foundation for a child's life in school. Let's finally get this done and join the ranks of neighboring districts. Adrian Seltzer, Wynwood. Please institute full day. Vesper Woodhoke, Marion Station. Hi, I'm a middle school student and I would like it if the school board changed the school start times. 8:15 in the morning, as school start time is extremely early and I can't imagine what high school will be like. Plus, the early start times aren't good for the students' health or their sleep schedule. They are going to school exhausted, therefore not able to concentrate and not able to get as much work done. Please do what's best for the students' health and push back the start times for the schools. Thanks. Colleen Campbell, Bala Kinwood. I appreciate the comprehensive list of assessments to be completed to explore full-day kindergarten. Full-day kindergarten will be especially critical for students who have not had access to daycare and social settings due to the pandemic for the past 2 years. What is the soonest timeline that full-day kindergarten might become a possibility? Is fall 2023 a possibility? What can we as parents and community members do to help accelerate district preparedness? I know that there are many who would volunteer to help prepare classroom spaces and take on other tasks to make this a reality. Christina Chang, Penn Valley. I have a few questions this evening about the proposed budget. Please clarify why the percentage increase in benefits is 1% higher than the percentage increase in salaries. What is driving this higher percentage in benefits? Regarding the $1.6 million increase in other purchased services, how are the tuition payments to charters per student compared to equitable costs of services at Lower Merion School District? Do we expect the shift in students enrolled in charter schools to increase, remain flat, or decrease in future years? Another entry from Adrian Seltzer, Wynwood. Please make the subcommittee meetings accessible to comments from residents. Just like these business meetings, recordings are edited to remove personal info, the same can happen with the subcommittee meetings. Please institute full-day kindergarten. LMT has a sustainability committee. Would LMSD consider being a stakeholder? It would be nice for the board to acknowledge all comments made. Colleen Campbell, Bala Kinwood. One additional thought regarding assessment timeline for full-day kindergarten. Is there any way to expedite the timeline by leveraging more concurrent assessments? My name is Cindy Dawson from Penn Wynne area. My name is Rebecca Fleischman and I am in Gladwin. I would like to express my support for full-day kindergarten for all the reasons already explained by parents and community members. I hope the administration and the board will continue to take this seriously, including looking toward our many neighboring districts who have successfully implemented full-day kindergarten. While I appreciate the administration's commitment to exploring LMSD's unique circumstances, this is not an issue of first impression. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Adrian Seltzer, Wynwood. That is supposed to be make subcommittee meetings accessible over Zoom to comments from residents. Ezra Wood, Marion Station. The high school and middle schools start too early. Parents and students have been telling the school this for over 10 years, and we have the science on our side, yet no changes have been made. If a permanent solution cannot be implemented for next school year, then in the interim, all the school times should be moved back by 30 minutes. The main drawback to this is that elementary school kids would get home later than preferred. As an elementary student parent, I am confident in stating that we can handle this. It will only be a minor inconvenience, but worth it because the high schoolers and middle schoolers will benefit so much. I hope that we receive a response tonight regarding this interim solution of pushing back all school start times by 30 minutes. And last one, Adrian Seltzer. Why can't Zoom participants be promoted to panelists to say their comments out loud?
Thank you, Ms. Brooks.
And thank you so much for the public comments this evening. Again, as we went through the full-day kindergarten presentation, this is an assessment and a proposed timeline to begin this work. As I said last week, yes, the administration is committed to looking at the solutions to bring full-day kindergarten to fruition. Mr. Lee eloquently stated that the board is in full support. So I wanted to just be very clear that this isn't simply a presentation and the information is going to go in the closet. We are serious about this. However, I have to be realistic, as I stated earlier in the presentation, about the competing interests. The only thing, and it doesn't bring frustration, it just brings a level of how can we create a deeper understanding around the complexities of a school system. And you know, this is the seat that I sit in and live and breathe superintendent stuff, education stuff. But you know, it is painful at times when you're trying to balance competing interests. Yes, full-day kindergarten is important. Yes, we're on it. Yes, healthy start times is important. We're on it. As well as, you know, the Arnold Field lights. That's important. We're on it. So trying to create balance, as well as the K-4, 5 to 8 reimagining, that's happening next year. Black Rock Middle School is happening next year. While balancing all of these competing interests and talking about, you know, the one painful point that I keep going back to is that I keep like saying, we have a true challenge with finances. The litigation interests are real. $30 million and not being able to touch it is real. I'm trying to be better with not bird walking back to my previous experiences. But in my previous experience, we had a very similar budget, a $350 million budget. Different forms of how it's funded in regards to local contribution versus state contribution. But when looking at the fund balance numbers, and in that district that I was in, when the state was at an impasse, our fund balance was used to make payroll, and we only could make payroll for 2 cycles. Now, not saying that that's something that we're fearful of here in the Lower Merion School District, but having adequate reserves is necessary. Meanwhile, while having money locked up in litigation, you know, it does limit some of the things that we can do in the, you know, in how fast we can do them with a sense of urgency. That's why this evening, again, the intent of the administration in support of the school board is to demonstrate our sense of urgency around these issues. It's a true sense of urgency. I'm making the commitment as a superintendent with anything that has my name on it, along representing the school district as well as my administrative team and with the support of the school board. When we do things, we're going to do them right, and we're going to do them to the best of our ability to present the very best, highest quality product we can put out there for our children. Please know that you have my commitment in that. Lastly, when we say that other districts are running full-day kindergarten, how come we just can't take their things or look at it and not reinvent the wheel? There are expenses wrapped up in this. Curriculum costs money. Facilities and doing it right does have an expense. We're going to look through all of these things, and you have our commitment, my commitment, along with the administration and the support of the board. We're going to unturn every stone, and this is not going to be a discussion as referenced earlier in the evening. This isn't a discussion that's going to happen in 2013, as it happened in 2013, and you don't hear about it again until 2022 with a real sense of urgency behind a plan. Just wanted to state that publicly. And again, I know we all have passion and purpose behind these issues, so I thank you. I thank you for sharing your information this evening, which will further inform how we go about doing this work, and again, sustaining that sense of that sense of commitment and urgency around these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mamine. So we're going to move on with our agenda. The following item is being pulled from the agenda for a separate vote. Item 9G, the tentative adoption of the 2022-23 proposed final school district budget.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Klein. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors tentatively adopts the 2022-23 proposed final school district budget, which authorizes expenditures totaling $305,790,474. 2, it levies a real estate tax of 31.8232 mils, which is in a dollar amount, $31.82 per $1,000 of assessed valuation. And 3, continues the 1% real estate transfer tax. And 4, continues the $5 local services tax.
Are there any additional questions from the board? We already discussed. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Great. So the motion passes. So we'll now move forward with approving tonight's agenda. So do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda via consent?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion passes. So now we will actually approve tonight's agenda via consent. Are there any questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Motion passes. And again, a congratulations to Mr. Johnson and Mr. James Coles on their appointments this evening. Ms. Brooks, can you please give us a report on the Sunshine Act?
Yes, in accordance with Act 93 of 1998, the Sunshine Law, the Board of School Directors met an information executive session on the following dates: April 18th for personnel issues, April 25th for collective bargaining and litigation on Arnold Field Lights, Montgomery County Court of Common Pleas, numbers 2021 to 20406, ZHB Appeal Number 4517 and 4518.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Upcoming board meeting dates, which are held at 8 p.m. here in the DAO boardroom, include May 9th for the Education Committee and supplementary regular board meeting, and Monday, May 16th for the regular business board meeting. Committee meetings will also be held in the boardroom and live streamed starting at 8:30 a.m. unless noted otherwise. April 27th is the Finance Committee meeting on staffing and IT budget review at 8:30 a.m. Also on April 27th, this Wednesday, is the Ad Hoc Committee for Equity and Anti-Racism. That will be at 7 p.m. May 4th at 8:30 a.m. is the Curriculum Committee meeting. Friday, May 6th is the Policy Committee meeting. May 11th is the Finance Committee meeting on Curriculum and Instruction Budget Review. May 12th is the Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting. And then finally, May 25th is the Communications Committee meeting at 7 p.m. And as always, I just want to plug the ISC Student Services Parent Education Series tomorrow night on SLEEP and the School-Aged Child at 7 p.m. on Zoom. And then on Tuesday, May 10th, is the ISC Hot Topic, which is the Superintendent's State of the District. And there being no further business, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.